That's good. This is such a legendary song. Yo, what's up? Old Lion. Oh, this is one. I was trying to say, like, okay, this opening theme. I don't really like this one too much. The Cornelia. The main theme. This is a good one. God, you hear this, like, walking around the world. Matoya's Cave. Yeah, I'm so nostalgic for NES. I love the NES. Tetris had some good songs. Oh, the airship song. Anyways.
What's up, man? God bless you, Brian.
God bless.
How's it going, brother?
It's going well. I just woke up. Thought I might do some reading or something. So I like to read on my lives out loud.
I heard you say that what is it? Time is part of God's nature, and that didn't really make sense because nature can or time is like change philosophically.
I think we would take the
God
position
cannot
that
change. So,
there's like time. There's problems when you say time is change because like that means there has to be two moments of time, right? So that like the first moment of time there would be no change. So time wouldn't start to the second moment of time. You see how it's kind of like weird?
yeah, I don't know. We want to really like put a label on that and say like time is part of God's nature, though.
Well, that's what Darth says and Ryan Mullins.
Yeah, I don't think that's the Orthodox perspective.
The Eastern Orthodox.
Yeah, I'm Eastern Orthodox.
I'm pretty sure it is because God enters into the biblical God is temporal. He like enters into time with us and has relations with us. And so if you're going to say he's timeless, then he couldn't like enter into creation or or interact or like have a relationship with creation.
I don't know. I think you should talk to one of my friends. His name is Nick SWV. I don't know if you've heard of him. He does. He does like the,
I've read papers on this. Ryan Mullins has a book called "The End of the Timeless God." And he completely debunks the notion of a timeless God. It doesn't work. It's just not biblical. It's the reason. Like some of the church fathers were more influenced by philosophy than the Bible, and so they tried to like make the Bible fit philosophy as opposed to make philosophy fit what the Bible says, and so that's where they get stuff like God's timeless.
well, I think I would just disagree because I would rather go with like church fathers than like our own understanding because they're disciples of the apostles.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, you should talk to Nick SWV about it. He argues for the Trinity, argues for the Trinity, and he's like, prove the Trinity as a logical win, like $200. He knows more than that about than I do, so you should talk to him about that.
Okay, man. Is that all you want to say?
Nah, do you remember me though?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say. I'm gonna keep watching though, for sure.
Okay, right on, man.
All right, man. God bless, brother.
You too. God bless. Got some people requesting here. Welcome, Jam.
Hey, you asked me how old I am?
No, I said welcome.
Oh, thank you. I feel welcome. That's funny. Is it funny?
Yeah. So what would you like to say?
Well, first I'd like to say, even though I just got here, I don't think that you believe these three statements, but I am going to entertain it.
What?
So I do not think that atheism is baseless and irrational. I think that to say that atheism is baseless and irrational, you would also have to say that, let's say Christianity or any other faith, Abrahamic religion, whatever, would also be baseless and irrational. Why would atheism be baseless and irrational?
Well, because there's no like good evidence to think atheism is true, whereas with Christianity, that's objectively proven. So I think that's the difference.
What evidence? Where's the proof?
There's we can make a transcendental argument for God, so it'd be like a transcendental proof.
Can you define transcendental? That's out of my depth.
It's just like foundational, like starting point beliefs. So we would argue God as a system of truth or something. You could think of it like that. Everyone has a system of truth, and we'd argue that the Christian system of truth is uniquely consistent with observable data.
So you're basically saying that like the historical events in the Bible line up with like scientists being able to prove it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm saying like humans we understand the world through a story or narrative, and
Sure.
the Christian story where God creates the world and He endows the world with order that makes like science and logic possible. It's a necessary story to explain reality, because the other story, like if you deny that, you have like chaos and there's no ultimate grounding for science or logic.
Yeah, I disagree. I don't think that any type of stories are, well, let me not say any type of stories, but I don't think that the Christian stories are needed for you to have science and logic. I also don't think that order is necessarily something that we need.
Well, it's not. It's what we constantly experience, order, and like when you're talking right
Yes,
now.
but we also experience disorder and chaos at the same rate.
When you're speaking, you're using unifying descriptions of reality. You might not be aware of this. So every time you speak, you're making metaphysical claims. You're describing reality. You're describing patterns and inherent connections in the world. But how are there inherent connections in the world if you're denying ultimate intention and purpose? There's nothing purposing the connections, but when you talk, you're talking as if there are purposed connections. There are inherent connections. So you're contradicting yourself when you deny God.
I'm sorry. I really don't understand what you're trying to say. The words you're using is
Okay, I could try
like
it.
going past my head.
Okay, so like when you talk about an apple, you think this apple is like this thing that has a limited property set. Like the apple doesn't
We
become
think that that's what we typically observe, yes.
sure, right? And we speak of it as if it, but like in a world without intention, there would be no limit. Like what would limit I'm saying God limits the properties of the apple so the apple doesn't become like an orange or a banana or some shit.
But that wouldn't be true because different beings experience life in different ways. So like, for example, I'll look at an apple and I'll see it one way. You'll look at an apple and you'll see it more or less the way I see it, maybe a tiny bit different. But a bird will look at an apple and see something very different probably, or maybe...
This is totally irrelevant. This is completely irrelevant.
I'm not sure why you mentioned that then.
No, what you are saying is irrelevant to what I'm presenting to you. Okay, so focus. This is non-believers struggle with focus. So apples, you talk about apples from time to time, but when you talk about apples, you're talking about this thing that has a consistent property set over time. There's limitations to the apple. You're not talking about this thing that's randomly changing all the time. You're talking about something that's limited when you speak about the apple. So what limits the properties of the apple so they're not the properties of an orange? I'm saying God limits the properties of the apple in my model of reality. What in your model of reality would limit the properties of the apple? And you would have nothing, or you're going to lie. So then what are you going to do?
You might be talking too smart for me. I really don't understand what you're trying to get at, bro.
It's really not that complicated. Do you understand that apples don't change into oranges? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you understand that in the Christian model of reality, God imposes that through his providence, the apple stays consistent and doesn't become an orange. So I can explain why we experience these consistent objects that stay the same over time. What in your model of reality, like, would do that, would limit the apple, its state of existence, so it doesn't become something else? It's not chaos. What's doing that in your model?
My own life experience and what I observe.
Okay. That's just a pathetic answer. I mean,
How is that pathetic? I mean, you walk around and can you not confirm things on your own?
So can you just admit that you got wrecked in the debate?
Is that what you want me to do?
Well, it's what happened. Do you want to deny the evidence, or what are we doing here? Do you believe in
Deny the
evidence?
evidence of what? If you see an apple, do you not see an apple and recognize an apple?
I gave you transcendental proof. So what are we doing here? Are we denying reality? Are we denying evidence? Are we just believing fantasy? What are we doing?
Are we?
Is that the evidence or deny it? What are you doing?
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, what you doing? Do you believe in evidence, or do you just live a fantasy life? What do you do?
I believe in evidence. That makes sense to me, yes.
Okay. And so Jem is apparently the arbiter of truth, and he's decided to live a fantasy of atheism and reject the truth of Christianity.
Well, I never said I was an atheist. I never said that.
What are you?
I'm agnostic.
You're agnostic. Okay, but that's the same thing.
It's not really the same thing.
Yeah, it is. Let's do a conceptual analysis.
Okay.
I have a meme. See, this might be more like arguments. Arguments might go over your head. So, do you understand memes?
I do understand memes sometimes.
So you're actually an atheist. Look at the meme.
Okay. Good meme.
Because do you think that God is obvious?
What does that mean?
Like an elephant in the room is obvious, as opposed to like a fruit fly or something, right?
No, I wouldn't say that God would be an obvious thing.
Okay, so then in Christianity, we believe God is obvious. So you're not
Okay.
neutral towards God. You implicitly deny the Christian God. So you're an atheist.
Just because you deny the Christian God doesn't mean you're an atheist.
All right. Thanks for coming, man. Oh my God. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You believe any of these claims on your screen. I don't believe you. There's no way you believe these things. There's no way. And then, like, what do? We examine all his claims and they're complete horseshit, right? He can't defend anything he says. And he sits here and goes, "Oh, you don't believe these things." I provide an argument. He cries and bitches and moans, and then makes all these claims that he can't do. He can't even defend his agnosticism. Where do they grow, these people? I mean, honestly, like, what? So goofy. I mean, I can just go over this argument real quick. It's really simple. I sent it to someone on TikTok today. Okay, so like, imagine if everything around you came together purely by random chance. There would be no reason for any objects, features, or properties to naturally belong together. For example, a tree might randomly look like a car tomorrow or not have leaves that match its branches. If everything were random, it would be extremely unlikely for two objects to share similar traits, for two apples to be round, or for certain traits to consistently belong to specific things. Like, it's like rolling a dice infinitely and expecting the same number to come up every time. It's improbable. Well, I would say it's impossible. Like, you couldn't roll a dice, and that's impossible, right? You can't roll a dice an infinite amount of times and expect like 5 to happen every time you roll the dice. It's not. And an infinite set, you're going to at least hit every other number one time. For something to have specific properties, like for an apple to be round or red, there has to be something that limits how it can exist. Otherwise, it could be anything and constantly change. And when we talk about the world, like saying trees have leaves or water is wet, we assume there's some kind of underlying order connecting these things. But in a world without intention, this connection wouldn't exist. So our descriptions would be made up stories like freaking Harry Potter. They go, "Oh, you guys believe in Harry Potter." Well, guess what? All your descriptions of the world that imply an underlying order and connection would be Harry Potter. All your words are a freaking made up Harry Potter story when you deny God. There's no meaning. They don't reflect reality. For the things we say about the world to be accurate, there has to actually be an order in the world because we speak as if there is one. Okay, a real connection between objects and their properties or between different objects. We all speak, act, and live like these are real inherent connections. And the non-believers want to deny that. When they want to say that it's just an illusion of design or order or something like that. So random chance or a world without attention alone can't explain why there's order in the world. Order implies there's some kind of guiding purpose or intention behind the way things exist. Purpose and function go hand to hand together. We have function in the world, therefore we have purpose. Your heart has a function. It's different than your liver. There's a purpose to your heart that's different than the purpose to your liver. Where do we get this? Where are we getting purpose and function in this world without intention and purpose? Purpose just isn't. What are they gonna say? It's like what do they say? What do they call it? Gosh, what do they call it? When like properties just materialize, I forget. God, what is that word they use? It's like it's like the atheist miracle world. Inherent is it? No, I can't remember. Anyways, I wish I could remember that word. So yeah, so since the world clearly has order, we can describe it and make sense of it. There must be some kind of intention or purpose behind it. The intention makes the world's properties inherently connected and meaningful. Without intention, the world would be completely random, chaotic, and incomprehensible. But because we can describe it in a unified way, it suggests there is some guiding purpose or design behind its existence. If you deny this, you would be contradicting yourself because you would be using unifying descriptions of reality to even deny what I'm arguing. And also, we can only know that everything exemplifies ultimate intention, ultimate design if it's revealed from the ground of being the Christian God. So there you go. God, what was that word? Why can't I think of that word? It's like manifested properties. God, what is that word? Welcome.
How's it going, man?
Oh, well.
So I'll preface this. I'm agnostic, atheist. Don't think that there's no way that there's a God, but I don't think there's sufficient evidence to provide that there is one.
Oh, that's just a baseless assertion. Okay.
I mean, so is Christianity, but we'll get to that point. That's why we're up here.
That's that's horseshit. You're BSing.
Okay. That's why we're up here, right?
Yeah.
So you said, first off, your entire line of logic is like kind of like a really big jump. Like I don't really understand. You said that there is, I guess you could say that there's rules to the universe, so therefore that there's a God. That's what it boils down to, correct?
God is necessary to explain the fundamental parameters of reality.
I don't think so.
You couldn't make that claim.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna make that claim.
Okay.
I don't think that
You have no reason to think that, though.
and you have no reason to think that God necessitates.
Incorrect.
Jesus.
I have a transcendental argument.
Say again?
I have a transcendental proof. I have a proof for my position. You are just gonna say things without proof.
Okay, so what's your proof?
Yeah, that you understand transcendental proofs?
I'm not familiar with that terminology on the exactness. So if you can give me your example, that'd be good.
They were kind of popularized by Immanuel Kant, and he's like a super famous philosopher. And it takes a fact about our mental life, like the fact that we have knowledge. And then I asked the question, like, what else would have to be true? Like, what non-mental fact would have to be true for us to have knowledge? And then I can take any fact and show that God is necessary for that fact. So.
Okay. Let's do that then. Let's say that the sun is a star. I mean, simple.
Yeah, so like we're gonna have to have like cause and effect because we're gonna have to like observe these objects, right?
Okay.
So we need causality. Only God's revelation can explain that. There's no science proof for causality. There's no philosophical proof for causality. We're gonna need identity over time. Only God can explain identity over time and cause it to be true. We're going to need like uniformity of nature. Only God can explain that. We're going to need reliability of senses and cognitive function. And only God can explain all these things which are necessary to say like the sun is a star.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is just a lot of like, I don't understand how this works, so I'm just gonna throw it on a supernatural entity. To me, that's what you're saying. I don't understand how
Yes.
this works, so therefore it is God.
Well, that would be God of the gaps. That's not what I'm saying.
So can you explain a little bit better? Because that's what I'm hearing right now.
I'm saying you're making metaphysical claims, and the Christian God is necessary to ground any metaphysical claims. To say the sun is a star is a metaphysical claim. And how would you ground metaphysics without the Christian God? You would have no basis. Science, and there's no philosophers who can justify any metaphysical claims. Metaphysical claims can only be justified or made sense of through God's revelation of himself in creation through human history.
So the sun is a star physically. That's just to clear that up there, it is like scientifically proven physically a star. Gases makes it up.
We're not getting this. So science just tells us how we perceive the world. It doesn't tell us what the world actually is. We need metaphysics to know what the world actually is in like an ultimate context.
Explain your claim a little bit more. Like what do you mean actually is? Energy?
There's a difference between perception and reality. We can never know what reality is apart from human perception.
I suppose. But if you want to go into philosophy, because we're getting deep into philosophy, if you want to go down that point, you could argue that reality is what we perceive.
No, you can't. No, that's not what reality.
I mean, you can definitely.
No, well, hold on. You can't actually argue that. That's nuts. That makes your life fantasy. Like you're like a Harry Potter character.
Just because you can't conceptualize something doesn't mean that. No,
because perception doesn't equal. You couldn't make any claims about reality. Perception doesn't equal reality.
A collective perception could equal reality. Yes, I'll be more specific.
No.
Yeah,
that's just even if like 5 people perceive like a tree, it doesn't mean the tree is really there. It just means you have a uniform experience. And it actually inhibits your ability to get behind your mental structures to access what the world actually is. There's no way to know what reality is apart from God telling us.
No. So like what you're saying here is that you believe that there is a deeper meaning to reality, which is like, first off,
hello, McFly. You're in a fantasy. To get out of the fantasy and get to reality, you need God. Revelation from God. There's no other way around this.
You
can't talk yourself out of this.
It's simply untrue. Like you're.
No, it is true. You're just a low information person.
No.
You're a low information person. You don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, you're just kind of like throwing out insults because you're like on the fence.
I'm not throwing out insults.
I can't really defend your position.
I'm not throwing out insults. It just logically follows that because you perceive something, it doesn't mean that's reality. Perception and reality are different things. And so if you're going to make claims about reality, you're going to need a revelation from God because human limitation, we have no access to reality, dipshit.
Reality is what we live in, bud.
We don't have access to reality. We just live in a fantasy until you accept God's authority, and then you could know what reality is.
That's like completely illogical.
It's not illogical. I just proved it. You're being emotional.
Dude, I don't. What? Like, what are you actually on?
I presented a transcendental proof. Okay.
Like to me, like I'm just gonna make my claim. To me, it sounds like you took some acid, right? And you saw a divine being, and like, oh yeah, I'm unlocked reality now.
Yeah. So these non-believers aren't serious, and they're emotional people, and this is what we have to deal with. There's people that you're like a flat earther, bro. When you present, because like I presented,
you're trying to argue that the world that we live in is fantasy, and that I can't see reality. This sounds like a Marvel movie plot.
It's just your situation without God.
Where's your proof for that? A situation without God? Are you saying
science doesn't make metaphysical claims, and philosophers don't justify any of their metaphysical claims? They just beg the question. So how can you say the sun is a star
Yeah.
if you have no basis to make metaphysical claims. That's just a fantasy.
I don't think you need metaphysics here to make that
Well,
claim. to be
well,
honest with you.
Frege proved that that's wrong. That anytime we talk, we're making metaphysical claims.
I mean,
You're just a low information person who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. So you're not even equipped for this debate. I'm sorry, but you're too low tier.
you're actually W rage bait, honestly.
Okay, well, you're too low tier, man. I gave the evidence, and you're either too inept or you just don't want it to be true, and you're just an emotional person. So you're either too low tier or you're just an irrational person. And then, like, it's like I can't convince a flat earther the Earth is a sphere, right? You're gonna be.
You can. I mean, I've done it.
No, you
I don't
can't,
think
because if they're determined to be goofy and say the Earth is flat, no evidence will change their mind, and this is how you're acting.
You're saying that the world that we perceive, right, in reality is different, right?
I'm not
Based off
saying
of
that. That's a fucking
exactly
fact.
what you're saying.
That's a
Where's the word right or
motherfucking
wrong?
fact.
That is a claim.
Yeah, I'm just kicking you, you dickhead. You're saying blah blah blah. That's a fucking fact. Idiot. Pig snakes. How is that a fact? What do you mean? Just because you perceive something and you think reality is that way, that doesn't follow. It's not just my opinion, dude. That's a fact. Fuck. People are so low information. Dude, that's welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well.
Doing pretty good. How you been? I wanted to talk about your dice rolls claim.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said something along the lines of if you roll a dice infinitely many times, there's a 0% chance you could get 5 every time. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. You would agree, though, that no matter how many times you roll that dice and get a number other than 5, there's always a non-zero chance you could get all 5s the next time?
What?
Let's say you start out like a roll of dice and you roll 10 5s in a row and then you roll a 1 or something, right? You set out to roll infinitely many 5s. You agree there's a non-zero chance of that happening, however improbable it is.
You think it's possible that we could get that amount of 5s?
Yeah, I think by definition it's possible.
Another low information person. No, that's crazy. That's not possible.
Wait.
If you in an infinite set of rolls, you're guaranteed to get every number once.
No. So what's the probability of rolling 1 5?
In an infinite set of rolls, you're guaranteed to get every number on the dice at least once.
That's just not true.
Okay, well you're just an idiot.
Well, wait. I can like try and like walk us both through this. Like,
Why?
what
Okay,
are the
hold
odds
on.
of-
Put yourself in my situation, right? You're doing a live, and some guy who's completely clueless, doesn't read, totally low information, wants to come up and tell people that you can roll an infinite amount of times and get 5 every time.
Yeah.
What would you do? Would you let someone just say a bunch of? Okay, go ahead. Say a bunch of nonsense.
Okay, yeah. So you could get infinitely many 1s in a row, infinitely many 2s in a row, infinitely many 3s, and the reason that you could do that is because what is the probability that you get 1 5? It's gonna be 1 in 6, right? And that's not 0. So if you roll 2, you're just gonna half that probability, and if you roll 3, you're gonna half that probability, and the probability is gonna get like very, 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 very small, but it will never be 0. It'll always be a more than 0% chance. Does that make sense?
No.
Well, I mean, do you agree that like infinite sets, there's an infinitely many infinite sets that have a beginning but no end?
Do you want the equation to explain why you're wrong or something? Is that what you want?
No. I'm saying that it's gonna be.
Do you want me to give you the math? Do you want me to spell out the math equation as to why you're wrong?
Yeah, if you have it, yeah, for sure.
Okay. So we'll say n if n is the infinite number of rolls, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so wait, each roll of the die has a 1 in 6 chance of landing on any specific number.
Yep.
For any single number, say 1, the probability of not rolling a 1 in a single roll is 5 out of 6. So the probability of not rolling a 1 in like an infinite number of rolls is 5 out of 6 to the infinite power.
Yeah.
Okay, so 5 out of 6 to the infinite power.
You agree is the same as 1 out of 6 to the infinite power.
This means the probability of never rolling a 1 approaches 0, right? So since this logic applies to each of the 6 numbers, the probability of missing any specific number over an infinite rolls is 0. Thus, you will eventually roll every number.
Maybe another way to think about this.
Could God infinite sequences
could God
an infinite sequence? I can't believe I have to explain this shit to people. Like, this is so crazy.
I think it's just a misunderstanding of infinity.
No, you don't understand. In an infinite sequence of independent random events, like rolling a fair die, every possible outcome has a non-zero probability. 1 of 6.
Yeah, yes, but that's just to agree with me.
It will occur infinitely many times. This guarantees that all 6 numbers will show up at least once.
No, that contradicts what you just said.
Continue to show up an infinite amount of times.
Look, you just contradicted yourself.
Look, you're just not. It's like flipping a coin an infinite number of times. While it's possible to have a streak of heads or tails over
infinitely many long.
You're guaranteed to get both heads and tails.
No. So wait, you just contradicted yourself.
Infinitely many times, right?
Yeah, but
similarly, with an infinite number of rolls of fair die, all 6 numbers will appear at least once, no matter how unlikely any particular sequence might seem.
Yeah, but that contradicts what you said. You said every outcome is a non-zero probability.
What a joke. Fucking so stupid. I can't, this is what they say for atheism, you guys. Oh, I can roll a dice an infinite amount of times and it will land on 5 every time. That's what that guy was trying to argue. That is like, flat Earth is more probable than what that guy's arguing. Literally, flat Earth is more likely. Like, my God. And I explained to him why he's wrong, and he still bickers with me. Oh, it's so frustrating. I can roll a dice infinitely, and it will always be 5. How would you even know that? Because you would never stop rolling it. How could you make that claim? You have a finite mind. As a human, how can you say anything about infinity? What would you know about the eternal? Emergent properties. Thank you. Oh my God. I should have read the chat. Probably someone saying that. I don't know why I didn't think to read the chat. Emergent properties. Yeah, that's the word. Emergent. Yeah, so when they say emergent properties, it's basically the atheist term for miracle. It literally has no meaning. It doesn't mean it's saying, well, there's some causal link between consciousness and chemicals and physical processes, but it's just emergent. Just trust me, bro. What is that? They're saying there's a causal link, but then to say it's emergent, it doesn't explain anything. It's just saying it is what it is, basically. They're basically saying miracle. It's basically miracle. God did it. Emergent property. But then they want to claim oh, we don't have miracles in our system. We're very rational, very evidential based. I can't believe someone tried to argue. I used to say, okay, imagine rolling 2 dice with infinite sides and they land on the same dice or the same number. And people would try to argue that that's possible. Well, it's virtually impossible, which means technically it's possible, but it's so unlikely that it might as well not be possible. So like to quibble over like impossible versus virtually impossible, I mean it's essentially synonymous. Anyways, so like but I changed, I thought I'll change it, right? So it's like rolling a dice infinitely and you get the same number every time. And this guy's still arguing. There's no way you can how do you argue this? You can't get the same if you're infinite. It's an infinite set. You never stop. It never stops. How could you say it gets 5 every time? How would you know an infinite set? There isn't a possibility. No, there isn't a possibility. No. Welcome.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Just chilling. What's up with you? What do you guys
No,
say?
yeah, I was um like a few days ago, I was having a really good conversation with Darth, and unfortunately, I had to leave, and I was wondering if maybe since you and him both kind of uh run in the same circles and have this transcendental framework, I was wondering if you might engage the same kind of argument that I was presenting to him and see where it goes. Um,
Yeah, all right. I don't. All right.
Yeah, so my question is that like um like in order to have this conversation you just need to grant me like two things without me having to provide you evidence for it, and that's the two things are that um something exists and that something is particular, so like a law of identity is embedded in that first axiom, and then the second thing is that I exist with a capacity to perceive that something exists. That's it. Those are the only two things I need
Well,
granted
yeah,
to
I
kind of.
would. Yeah, but I would. Why would I grant you anything? I'm not going to grant you anything.
Well, I mean, for us to have any form of conversation, we have to at least agree on those two primary axioms.
The whole transcendental argument is about like let's see whose worldview can ground argumentation, and I reject axioms.
Well, you create. Well, if I understand correctly, um, the entire reason why the transcendental argument works is because you point out things, qualities of existence that cannot be grounded, in your opinion, without the necessity of God. Right. So existence itself, you
It's
don't.
not. It's not my opinion. It's just that's like look at any philosophers will say this stuff. Like Kant, right? You familiar with the noumenal phenomenal divide?
Yeah. I'm not a
Yeah,
big fan of idealism, but yeah, sure.
I'm not arguing for idealism. The point, what Kant pointed out is true for everyone. It's not just idealism. It's that we can't know the world outside of our perceptions. So we're limited to our perceptions of the world. We don't know what the world is, in like an objective sense, apart from human perception.
Oh yeah. And I will totally agree with Kant on that. And I think that's where like the fatal flaw comes in, because it seems to me that in the transcendental argument, well, look, like Kant was completely right about that. Yeah. And and I think the point is that when you look out into reality and you see like the law of identity applying to something, right? You have no power over that law of identity. You can't will it or reason it to be something it's not. You can't make A not be A. And so clearly, whatever makes A exists outside of you. And so I guess my entire point is that when you try to create a metaphysical or like an ontological argument for how reality is structured, your only means of doing that is based on information from sense perception and your power to conceptualize it.
If you reject God as the authority, but if you take the Bible as the authority, then we have a third way to attain knowledge through God. And the knowledge is justified in virtue that it comes from God.
Okay, but how? Is it like, if it's not sense perception, how does it come?
Okay. So you understand like There's a difference between saying knowledge ultimately comes from sense perception and knowledge ultimately comes from God. Those are different things, right?
I understand. I'm just asking for the
Okay.
means.
I don't think you're getting it. You're trying to throw like an empirical criticism to me. I mean, what do you mean the means? I'm saying
Oh,
it
look.
comes from God. That's the means. The knowledge comes directly from God.
Okay, but what
Revelation, knowledge from God. Dirt.
revelation? So you're saying that you are connected to the mind of God.
God can like he uses like the prophets, right, to speak to us. So he can speak directly to us, for example. That's one. There's multiple ways he reveals himself.
So you say God communicates directly, like to the
That's just one of
prophets
the ways.
somehow.
That's one of
Hmm?
the ways. Yeah, that's one of the
Uh-huh.
ways. And then he incarnates like Jesus is God. So that's a revelation. So what Jesus says comes from God. So it's justified in virtue that it comes from God.
Okay. So,
Okay.
but how do you ground anything that you just said? Like, how do you provide a validity?
God is the ultimate reality. God is what grounds it. What do you mean? So
I
like
understand.
I'm
I
saying
understand. Go
the
ahead.
Bible is the self-authenticating authority in the system. And then if you're saying what? You're saying the Bible's not the authority?
I'm saying that, uh, and correct me if I'm wrong, from an outsider's perspective, when you use a transcendental argument to say, look, here's some necessary set of properties that are required to make sense of reality, and these necessary set of properties exist in the Christian God, it appears to me that you're saying, in other words, look, um, I'm going to use some logical system to arrive at the conclusion that reality is impossible without God. And God is the basis for this, for the reason why I can use this logical system to make this assertion. So it seems like a gigantic circular argument to me.
Okay, what you're not getting, I'm not okay. We're not saying like we reason to God's existence, right? We're saying we reason from God's existence. It's only because God exists that we can use reason. So, us being able to use reason is it like an implicit evidence of God? It's not, I don't know what, like, it's circular in the sense of like a worldview circularity where like I'm saying that any ultimate authority in a system of truth is going to be circular. You understand that, right? But it's not like a question begging circularity because we're appealing to God as like a ultimate fact, not like a normal fact. God's ultimate, so it's a different category of fact. So it's not really circular like the way you're thinking.
Yeah, I guess it's really hard for me to grasp simply because I think we have a
Okay,
completely
do you
different understanding.
understand? I have a system of truth, right? I have the Christian system of truth. You have a
Sure,
system of truth, right?
sure.
Okay, you have a self-authenticating um, starting point in your system, right? Every system of truth needs a self-authenticating starting point, and you're just like going, "Well, you're circular. You have a self-authenticating starting point," but you're using a fucking self-authenticating starting point to say that.
You're, well, I agree, but the thing is, my
Well,
self-locating starting point can
okay.
be reduced down to some type of sense observation. Yours is,
Yes, and that reduces to absurdity. You couldn't have
how so?
knowledge on your sit because of the problems with empiricism. If all knowledge is derived from sense data, that
Yeah.
proposition isn't in sense data. So you immediately destroy your own system upon its ultimate commitment. Your starting point is self-defeating. So
Well, hold
that's
on a
you
second.
lose.
Well, hold on a second.
Well, hold on, you just lost. Okay, go ahead.
My position is not that knowledge is like constructed out of sense perception. Sense perception is like it's constructed out of conceptualization of sense perception, right? So like the reason I would say like I know
No,
that
no. Are you an empiricist
I'm an objectivist.
like Ayn Rand?
Exactly.
Okay. That's just what you're doing is you're skirting the issue of ultimate mystery and you're turning epistemology into science. So you're just ignoring David Hume. So you're not really doing epistemology. So that's a joke. That's a fantasy. Do you want to live a fantasy or do you want to live in reality?
Well, hold on. All I do is
Well,
accept
hold on.
empiricism and
Answer my
rationalism.
question. Your epistemology doesn't work. That's called naturalized epistemology, which means you're trying to change the definition of what epistemology traditionally meant, which is an attempt to defeat skepticism, and you're just ignoring skepticism. And so I'll just make skeptical arguments against you and destroy your fucking ass. Okay? So do you want to live in that fantasy that doesn't work, your model that's self-defeating, or do you want to live in reality in Christianity? What do you want to do?
I want you to defeat the model.
Okay, fuck you. What an idiot. Oh, so annoying. So annoying. Where do they grow these people? I want you to defeat the model. I literally just explained to you that does nothing against skepticism. Ayn Rand naturalizing epistemology, it doesn't defeat skepticism, it just ignores skepticism. I want you to defeat the model. I just did, dipshit. These people, it's like it goes one ear and it goes out the other because there's a gap in between ears. That's what's going on. There's a complete gap in between their freaking ears. So when you tell them something, it goes straight through their fucking head, in one ear and out the other. Absolutely pathetic. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, I like your name.
Thanks.
What would you like to say?
Yeah, I'd like to ask, what is the objective proof for Christianity?
Thanks, Miranda. It's a transcendental proof. So do you even know what a transcendental proof is? Most people don't. It's like a meta level argument. Most people are used to normal, everyday, street level arguments.
Yeah, arguments are great and all, but what about the objective proof?
That it's a transcendental argument.
And
Arguments
how
are
is that objective proof?
because it's a transcendental proof. It's an objective.
Right, I said, how is it objective proof?
Because it's a logical proof, a logical argument.
Right, so when you say objectively proven, clearly that means you might have some evidence.
Yes.
And where is that evidence?
So all evidence, every evidence, right? Are you with me? The entire set of all evidences, right? You with me?
That made no sense.
No, hold on. Like, do you understand what I mean when I'm saying like every evidence? Like if there is evidence at all evidence, like the whole, you know what I mean by that?
I literally don't.
Okay. Do you know like a group? Like I'm going to make a group and I'm going to put all evidence in the world in the group, okay?
Okay.
Now we're talking about all evidence in the world, right?
Right. I'm just asking what evidence you have to say.
And I'm trying to answer your question, okay? And I'm going slow. I'm dumbing this. I'm trying to dumb this down for you. Okay?
Well, you're making it sound not like anything. What is the objective proof?
I'm trying to dumb it down, like real dumb. Real dumb.
I feel like this isn't a difficult question to answer.
Well, I'm trying to dumb it down for you.
Okay, so when are you going to present your evidence? Today?
God is necessary for any evidence. So
I disagree.
Okay, so how did you determine that evidence exists with independence of God?
Because you have to prove that God exists.
Okay. Thank you for coming.
Oh, so you can't?
Okay. Well, it's like I couldn't prove the earth is a sphere to a flat earther because flat earther is emotional and irrational. And you are like a flat earther. Exactly. Very unique, extremely unique. Yeah, Army Father, you're correct. Welcome, Ivan.
Yo, can you hear me? Is my audio good?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So what's up? Okay, good.
I was talking to very emotional people who want to live in an atheist fantasy world.
That's fine. I think the most emotional people are religious people, but we can get into it.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I have a question, if I can.
Okay.
I think this logic will disprove God. Ready?
You can't use logic to disprove God. That doesn't make
Well, I
sense.
can if you give me a chance.
You can't. Okay. You can fail. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try that. Premise one, is God all-knowing?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Yes.
God is all-knowing. So does God know what it feels like to take a dick in the butt?
No.
Oh, so he's not all-knowing. God doesn't exist. Bang, proven. See ya.
Okay. So God doesn't know what it's like to sin, right? So God wouldn't know what it's like to experience sin.
A good old dick in the butt is not a sin, my friend. Okay.
Okay.
It's not.
Well,
So,
I would
so
say
how do you feel,
it's not
to be an atheist?
it's
Is it
not
very
it's not
liberating?
contradiction.
No, because I think you either have to answer in the affirmative or
Well,
the
it'd
negative.
be a contradiction if God could experience sin. That would be a contradiction. So you have it backwards. You have it ass backwards.
I think
Get
God.
You have
Wait,
it ass backwards.
Does God know
Get
what
it?
it feels like to have it ass backwards, or does he not?
He doesn't, because I told you that it'd be a contradiction for God to experience sin.
A dick in the butt is not a sin, my dude. God loves. He partakes in all forms of love. Yes.
You certainly put the dick in contradiction, don't you?
Oh, yeah. You just became an atheist.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
I wish you well. Oofda. You know, some people have unique hobbies, and that's okay, right? But hopefully they get right with God, I mean, I'm not going to say what God is going to have an opinion on people's actions, right? So hopefully your very unique hobby is in accord with our Lord, and you don't face eternal separation on Judgment Day. Guess you won't be laughing so much in the bottomless pit. True. There'll be gnashing of teeth. Anyways, I got this book here. So I'm reading the book, the Ethics of Freedom. I should probably go back and read the Atheological Apologetics book. That would be better for apologetics, but I kind of want to read this book. Try a science book? Yeah, right, as if. If you want to read a science book, how about... No, I don't even want to say. I don't like science. And it's not like... The reason I don't like science, it's nothing like necessarily about science. It's like people's obsession with science. The fact that people are just like... It's like a scientific deception. The fact that science is used to by politicians to push lies, and when a lie, science has this like aura of credibility. Okay, and then so when the politician attaches science to their lies, it makes people more likely to believe these lies, and that's what bugs me about science. Is it has this like, oh, it's credible, it's science, we put a man on the moon, it must be true. It's just like a new religion. Oh, the scientific miracle. Well, we put a man on the moon. Trust science, trust science. Where like God raised Jesus from the dead. Trust Jesus. Screw science. Science is a demonic deception. Like, I'm not saying now when I'm saying that, I'm saying it's being used the way science is being used. Technology and science, they study humans like behavioralism and psychology because they want to control you. The statistical data, think about all the surveys and statistical data. All that is designed to like effectively manipulate you. And manipulation, it's not even necessarily like evil. It's just what happens. Like the way we've set our world up, all the systems and the complexities. Like a company's trying to make money, so they're gonna gather statistical information and then use that to try and like be a better company. And that's just gonna entail, it's not even like nefarious manipulation. What is it gonna do? I'll see the guy in the box, I'll add you here. I'm gonna. I think there's someone I was gonna unblock. I think, was it Tristan? I think it was Tristan. Yeah, I don't think Darth should have blocked Tristan. I don't. I think Darth was blocking people yesterday. I'm just gonna remove all of his blocks from yesterday because like I can't remember which ones deserved it, but he blocked like a couple people I don't think really deserved it. Like I only want him to block people that are doxing or like saying the N-word or talking about him P3.
Hey, good morning, brother. How are you
Good
today?
morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Do you mind if I ask your name? Is that something you're willing to say?
I just like to go by Mars.
Mars, yeah. So Mars, first things first, Jesus Christ of Nazareth is the one true Son of God, the one true King of Kings. Let's just start there.
Okay, yeah, but we're both Christians. I'm looking for like non-Christians to debate. I don't really debate Christians.
Well, that's fair. I actually just wanted to share an ounce of perspective, if that's fair, on this whole science thing, right?
Okay, sure.
So foundationally, right, science necessarily doesn't have to be evil. In fact, most early science was founded by Christians, right? So Nicholas Copernicus was the guy that said that that the sun doesn't revolve around us, that we revolve around the sun. He got that theory based off of reading the Bible. True story. Other foundational scientists founded it based off their Christian beliefs, and a lot say they founded it from their prayer life. So I actually think that God uses science in some areas. And then literally these are historical accounts. People that are making fun of me, you can go and read.
I don't know what you mean by God uses science, but I'm just saying like there's look, we live in a world where there's like powers, right?
Right.
And scientific institutions represent a type of power, just like religious institutions represent a type of power, and then there's political powers like governments and the state. Well, but in the past, religious institutions held more power in the world. Like, let's be honest, religion is waning. Science keeps going up and up and up. Science is, and the thing is, like, we know, like Lord of the Rings, power corrupts, and power is all about being centralizing and more. There's no limit to power. Power ignores limits. It's like, what can I do? Then I'm going to do it. If I can do it, I'll do it. What can I do? Like trying to do more and more and more. That's power. There's corruption in that. And all I'm saying is like people are just sort of bewildered by like, I don't know, it's like a deception of the beast in Revelation kind of. I'm not saying that's what it is, but.
Well, I mean, we're certainly getting closer to that sort of end of the book, if you will, right? We see so many, different forms of quote unquote payment. And now that there's a lot of people that are easily accessing everything based off the phone. I mean, a lot of stuff has changed in a really fast way in the last 50 years where it's actually pointing closer to that stuff being real. A lot of prophecies also from the book are starting to happen. So, I mean, no one knows, right? They say in the book that even Jesus doesn't know until it's time. But
I don't think it was saying that, but yeah, I know what you mean.
I'll say this, man. When you are taking the debate structure, right? Is your goal to be proven right, or is your goal to be winning souls?
I'm not really trying to win souls, or like I'm not a preacher or Bible scholar or anything. I'm just like I like apologetics and I like debates and like I'm a comedian, so really I'm trying to like entertain people, make people laugh, and if I can humiliate atheists along the way, then all, because like I think atheism is poison to the world. It's like a really bad mentality. It's really bad for people. So if I
Yeah, but
I want to
can I-
expose that, you know.
but Mars, can I share something with you?
Sure.
So Christ teaches us, right, to lead with a sense of gentleness, right? Our fruits of the spirit are to lead with gentleness and kindness. So what if you got an atheist up here, right? And let's say you're representing Christ, you're representing our relationship, and they're actually open-minded, but because you come at them a certain way, now they're turned off from Jesus forever.
Well,
And let me
no
and
one
let
is
me
open-minded. They're not open-minded. Some are just more polite, and others are impolite. No
well,
one knows.
I don't think it's fair to say no one. And let me share one more bit of perspective.
It's true. You're not being real, dude. You're in an ideal world. You're in fantasy land. You got to get to reality. No one is open-minded. Everyone has a bias. I'm admitting my bias. My bias is towards Christ. They are biased against Christ, and that's what it is. Don't fool yourself to think these people are open-minded. They're not.
Okay, let me just share this last bit of perspective because I personally do disagree. I think a lot of people are. What I've noticed directly with atheism,
Okay.
huh?
It's to think that you're open-minded is literally a contradiction because you're not open to the fact that you might be closed-minded. You've already determined that you're open-minded. So what if you're closed-minded? You've decided you're not closed-minded. So you're not open to being closed-minded. Therefore, you can't be open-minded. Everyone has a bias. Just
I'm
be
pretty sure
real.
this is rage bait. This little
It's
bit.
not rage bait. It's real,
It's a
dude.
little rage bait.
You're an idealistic person. You're not in reality. So you're never going to be effective because you're not pragmatic about these things.
But Mars, what if I've told you I've evangelized atheists in the street and brought them to know what could be Jesus just because I had a conversation with them and talked to them human to human?
I'd say that sounds like a lot of pride because you should be giving the credit to God, even if that's true.
It absolutely is because of God. I do it because I love Jesus Christ, and I want people to understand that he's a person of
Well,
love.
then why
He's
don't
not a
you love
person
me
that-
and let me make fun and do my comedy and make fun of atheists?
Because it's foolish what you're doing, Mars. Why put people down?
Why not?
Because Christ did something so much better than that. He said, "I'm going to beat them."
I don't
with
agree
love
with you.
every
So we
single
disagree.
time.
We disagree. How do we
Well, now
determine who's right?
Well, Mars. Now we are going to have a debate. When there was a woman at the
I
well,
don't
that
want
was
it
a
now.
Lord that went out.
Alex, we're Christians
Mars.
arguing now. We might be driving people away
Because
from
that's
Christ.
the most important
Oh,
people
we
to
fight.
argue with.
Oh, Alex, we're driving people from Christ now because we're yelling at each other, and they're
No,
going to see two
no.
Christians yelling at each other.
No, Mars,
oh my
I'm not-
God, and they might not be Christian now.
Be mature.
Oh, what if we are just nice to each other? Then they'll be Christian, right?
But Mars,
Okay. I love you, man.
I'm
I
not
love you and
arguing with you.
forgive you, man.
I'm holding you
I
to a
come with
higher
you a
standard.
humble heart, man.
I'm
I'm
holding
so
you to a
nice to
higher
you, man. I
standard, bro.
love you. Oh, I love
me-
you so much. Mwah, mwah.
I mean, you sound very foolish, man.
Oh, I love you. Let's
So
forgive each other and
everyone's
be
allowed
nice.
to have an opinion, bro.
Let's forgive each other and be nice to each other.
What's on your heart, Mars?
What?
What's on your heart? Be real. What's on your heart, bro?
Fucking people, man. Welcome, Jacob.
What's up, Mars?
Just talking to a Christian Karen. How
No,
are you?
I heard it. I heard all that.
Yeah. That's what they want to do. I became a Christian. Now I'm gonna tell everyone how to live their lives.
All right, but
Little mustache men.
all right. So I will disagree with every point you put down, though.
Oh my God.
That's what you wanted, though,
Another
right? That's what you
Christian
wanted.
Karen. All right, let's make Christianity look bad and fight among each other. Go for
That's
it.
not what I'm saying. I'm not
Okay.
Christian, by the way.
You're not a Christian?
I was raised Catholic,
Oh God.
but then I was atheist, but now I'm agnostic, which means,
Oh my God.
do you know what that is?
Yeah, it means you're atheist.
It means I believe religion could be real, because I don't know. I don't think any.
You're just being polite about denying God. You're actually an atheist because God isn't like a could be, a maybe, a probably. God is a necessary, an absolute.
Okay, but can you just like see my side real quick, like
I mean,
there's no actual proof.
yes, there is
Tell me it. I'll listen.
a transcendental proof. Okay, they're real things that exist. You can look it up in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. It's called a transcendental argument. Okay, I can show that God is necessary for like knowledge, or like I can take any fact and show that God's necessary for that fact. God's necessary for evidence at all. So any evidence implicitly is evidence of God, since you couldn't have evidence in a world and any non-Christian model of reality. So that's how we prove God. Boom.
I think that's a very philosophical definition of God being real.
It's a philosophical proof. Yeah. So do you reject philosophical proofs?
So like I said, like I want like almost physical proof, which and I'm not saying religion can't be real. Like God
Do you
definitely
believe
absolutely hold up. God could absolutely be real, but I have no way of knowing that.
So goofy. So do you know that 1 + 1 = 2?
That's a stupid question.
Yeah, well, I'm talking to a stupid person.
Are you though? I think
Look, man,
we should disagree.
Is there any physical evidence that 1 + 1 = 2? You said you want physical evidence. Is there any physical evidence for that?
Math is much different.
Oh,
right,
well, why
man.
can't I use like prove God sort of like how we prove math? Why can't I do that?
How can you prove there? Okay, so like, what does God do? What does he do?
What does God do? He's the
Yes.
ground of being. He created everything. Everything derives and depends on him, and he sustains everything.
What does he do to us people today?
He sustains everything in existence by his divine providence. So like an apple, right? An apple doesn't turn into an orange because God limits the state of existence of the apple. But because of that limitation, we can have apples. Without that limitation, everything would be random.
Okay. So personally, like, I don't believe in God, but I don't disagree with religion just because I think people can get a lot of strength and courage from believing in a God. Like, they can do whatever they want because they believe in a God. But it's really the person itself that's doing all the work. Like, everything you've done in your life, you have personally done that. That's why I stopped believing in God, because I was like, I only started praying because I was in a bad situation, and then I wasn't anymore. And then I just stopped praying, and I was like, oh, like, do I really believe in him? I don't think so.
Sorry, I got someone in the chat, I guess, was being naughty. So, but it sounds like you don't care about the evidence, because I presented evidence to you and you kind of ignored it. And so it seems like you just believe what you want to be true.
You said philosophical evidence. That's not tangible.
There would be tangible evidence too.
Where is it?
There's a Bible, there's the history of the church, and then there's like the medical.
Who wrote the Bible?
Like the apple is tangible, right?
Who wrote the Bible?
God.
Like
God
a ton of
wrote the
people.
Bible. So the apple's tangible, right?
A bunch of people read it after.
No, God wrote the Bible. You don't know what you're talking. So let's focus.
There's a bunch of different versions.
I don't need the Bible. I don't need the Bible. Okay, ignore the Bible. The apple proves God. That's a metaphysical reality. We experience the apple. The apple doesn't change into something else. That proves God. That's tangible.
Okay, so I believe in science. That's just science.
But can science prove science is true?
Yes.
Oh, isn't that circular reasoning though? Oh, why doesn't this work anymore? Gosh. It used to work. What happened?
Yeah, I don't know what happened, bro.
Yeah, what happened?
But
Can't have nice things anymore.
yeah. But all right, we're not gonna agree on anything.
Yeah, because you want to ignore evidence and believe.
All right, I'm trying to be respectful here.
Yeah, but like I gave a transcendental proof. It's valid. It's sound.
Transcendental?
Yeah. You can look it up in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. It's a valid argument. It can prove things. I proved God with a transcendental proof. Done deal. If you deny the proof, you would contradict yourself. Do you want?
I wouldn't. Okay, so I'm not a scientist or anything, but I would imagine that's theoretical.
What's theoretical?
The transcendental truth.
No, it's an objective. It's an objective proof. It's better proof than any science proof.
That sounds theoretical to me.
It's better than science proof.
Science is literally how we live our lives. Like, you pick up an apple, yeah, that's science right there. All right, bro. No, I was just trying to say we're not going to agree.
It's not that we're not agreeing. It's that you're literally ignoring evidence and you just believe what you want to be true. That's what's happening.
Science is literally proven evidence. It's proven evidence.
You're just really low information and ignorant. And you don't want to learn. So there you go. I guess that's where we're at. So science doesn't prove anything. Science is called provisional truth, which means it's always updated to be revised. So it never says anything definitively. So you can't.
Dude.
Not to mention that you don't even have a law. You couldn't justify any scientific law without God. So science doesn't work without God, man. It doesn't get off the ground. There's so many
science and God are completely different.
You've been indoctrinated. There's so many problems with science that you're unaware of, and you just have blind faith in this crap.
Bro, so like probably one of the bigger reasons I became agnostic/atheist, I guess, is what you want to call me.
You're not agnostic, though. You deny Christianity.
I say it could be true because I don't know. But for sure. That is a difference.
In Christianity, God is obvious and apparent and plain to everyone. You don't think God's obvious.
I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm talking about agnostic and atheist.
You deny the Christian God. You deny Jesus.
Okay, so I'll go to hell.
Okay.
I got baptized, though, so, I'm all right.
Okay, well, good luck with that. I wish you well on Judgment Day.
Okay, no, but... Dude, like, I'm really not trying to argue with you. I'm trying to tell you we're not going to agree. Like, that's for certain.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
This is a debate. I'm trying to debate people, you realize.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying this because I'm about to get off here.
Okay. It's not about agreeing. It's about what we can prove. And I've provided a proof, and you provided a emotion.
No, that is not proof. That is like...
Okay, well, you can say that.
Whatever you think is proof.
That's just a claim.
No.
That's just a claim that's going to have metaphysical content that could only have metaphysical content if my claim is true. Harassment and bullying? The hell?
On who?
Me, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, I'm all right over here.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, man, like, I know you're going to disagree, but you can't absolutely prove that God is real, in my opinion. Like, there's absolutely no way unless he speaks to me directly.
And everything is your opinion because you have no objective standards to say anything is true. So, great. Cool opinion. Well, I provided a proof and we have an opinion. So the audience can decide if they want to believe your opinion or my proof. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, man. See ya.
All right. I wish you well. Welcome.
How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. You think science is impossible without God? How come?
Um, in a world where there was no like consistency, we wouldn't have repeatable results, and science relies on repeatable results. And so,
But the world does have consistency.
yeah, and the world where God created it and endows it with that consistency would make science possible. And if you reject God, then how would you explain that like consistency that we experience? You wouldn't be able to do it.
I would explain it through natural processes that don't require a God and don't predetermine or pre-assume there is one.
But that's not an explanation. That's just gibberish.
No.
Yes.
As far as I know, I see no reason to deem any natural laws a creation of a personal God.
So there would be no rational proof for the uniformity of nature, and there'd be no empirical proof for the uniformity of nature. So without epistemic justification for the uniformity of nature, science would be impossible. You couldn't do science.
The laws of nature, are we just going to forget about those?
Are you just going to ignore what I'm telling you?
Well, what you're telling me doesn't make any sense. Even if I were to hypothetically agree with you, how does that get me to your personal
You don't
God?
have to agree with me. I don't care like about your opinion, right? I'm just presenting
Clearly
proof.
you don't. I listen to your lives. You're
Yes.
arrogant.
What I'm doing is presenting proof. Okay. Anyone can look into what I'm saying. and
Please
what I'm
present
saying.
it then.
Okay. Well, whatever your opinion. Okay. Anyone can fact check the things I'm saying, and the things I'm saying are facts. Okay. It's not my opinion. Okay. Bertrand Russell will confirm this. Bertrand Russell, atheist philosopher, who's considered like a genius by like the world. He says that there's no way to explain this consistency that we need for science. There's no rational way, there's no empirical way, and there never will be. And so we need a third type of knowledge, revelation from God. And without that knowledge, science is impossible. And there's no way around that.
Wait, can I ask you, the four fundamental laws that dictate everything in our reality, those things are only possible with the God you advocate for, the personal God?
Sure, because a law itself would be a unifying description of reality. And what would be your unifying principle that can cause things to be true?
Well, the four fundamental laws, they just kind of exist. I don't think there's any reason to think that there's an intelligent intellect that thinks and makes decisions behind these laws. They just are. Matter and nothing would exist without them. You could argue that they're inherent, they're inevitable.
Well, the problem is they're not like metaphysically primary. So they're going to require, like I said, they are unifying descriptions of reality. So they need a single unifying principle that has causal powers to.
And why does that have to be a personal humanistic God, which is more often not male and white, and a whole bunch of other personifications and projections of human emotions? Like, there's so much other baggage when you're advocating for a God in this abstract.
What are you talking about, dude? You're just saying nonsense, dude.
Well, no. You're saying God is a necessity, but then I'm wondering why you're advocating for, how do you make the jump to a personal God and not some like Spinoza's God or sum total of the laws of the universe? Because I know you believe in a personal God and not just an abstract one.
Okay, so could we, if God purposes that the world doesn't know God, could we know God?
If God made it so that we couldn't know him, is what you're saying?
Yeah, could we know him?
From the way people describe God as being all powerful, he could be deceptive and elude us, yeah.
Okay, I'm not getting a clear answer to my question. If God purposes the world not know him, can we know God?
No. At
Okay.
that point, no.
So we can only know God through God, what God reveals, right?
Well, this is assuming that God is even real in the first place. I think God, the concept is man-made.
But when
God's
when you-
made in our image.
Sure, but when you take that route and you don't accept the authority of God, it's going to entail a performative contradiction.
Do you accept the authority of Santa Claus? Because it's the same difference here.
What about the authority of all the other gods and all the other religions that people hold in such high regards, like Islam?
So now you want to argue for things you don't believe in?
No. I'm seeing how consistent you are with what you're arguing for. You don't view any of these other God claims as an authoritative figures, but they use the same arguments you use, like you need an unmoved move, a first cause, and everything's built upon that. You would make a perfect Muslim, my man.
Well, I've just made an argument that like
You didn't make an argument. You
Hold
just
on.
told me what you believe, and that's about it.
We just agreed we can only know God through revelation. And revelation is going to be Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And then from there,
all the devils are here. This is ridiculous.
from there, we would just get into a theological discussion as to which one of those is correct. Which
Well, it's definitely not any of those. All promote horrible atrocities against humanity, so it's
Yeah.
none of them. The
according to
Bible
your
included.
opinion. Yeah, cool opinion.
No, it's a fact. The Bible promotes
Yeah.
sex slavery.
Okay,
Read
what's
Numbers
your-
31, 17 through 18. It promotes atrocities.
What's your objective standard when you say something's good or evil? What objective standard?
Well-being and the simple fact that we have to recognize that we're all individuals and we need to share space.
Well, that's your opinion. So
No, it's a
okay.
fact. Are we not all individuals? Let's say there's no God. We're still individuals. We should recognize the fact that we need to share space, and well-being should matter. Thus, we can deduce slavery is wrong.
No, that's an
Rape is
is-out.
wrong.
That's a fallacy.
Unaliving is wrong.
That's a fallacy. That's a is
No.
out fallacy.
Let's just say hypothetically that we know there is no God. Would you like to be unalived? Because I wouldn't. Would
I
you
would
like
like
to be
to know.
enslaved?
I would like to know
Because I
how.
wouldn't. Would you
what-
like to be
Are
raped?
you gonna let me? Are you
No
gonna-
one would.
I would like to know
We
how.
can
How do
deduce
you
these
solve,
things without a God.
How do you solve the is-out fallacy? Is-out gap?
What's
How do you
that?
solve- Well, just because something is the case doesn't mean something ought to be the case, right? And you're arguing that because this is the case, then this ought to be the case. That's a fallacy. Unless can you solve the is-out gap?
That doesn't make sense. If something is the case, you can say it ought to be the case, but that won't follow through because it is. If it is the case, it is what it is,
You
regardless of
can't
how
get an
anyone
ought from an
feels.
is. You can't get an ought from an is.
Why are we using like spaghetti language? What do you mean?
Because you're making fallacies. That's why. I'm like the fallacy.
Pointing out the atrocities in the Bible is a fallacy.
I'm the debate police.
I see no fallacies on this end. I do see them on the other end, though.
Can
But
you-
I keep my mouth shut
The
about
fallacy is.
Can you
there's
read
no-
Numbers 31, 17 through 18 for
When
me?
you say something in the Bible is good or bad, you're appealing to your opinion. You have no objective standard to say something's good or bad.
If there is no God, there is no objective
We can't
standard.
be
It's all
arbitrary.
subjective.
When we debate, we can't be arbitrary. But how are you going to avoid being arbitrary? What are you going to object?
What do you mean by being arbitrary?
Just giving me your opinion.
Okay, well, when it comes to morals, the way we look at them are, whether there's a God or not, it's kind of irrelevant to the problems that we're facing in society.
So what objective standard are you appealing to when you say like something in the Bible you don't like?
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if it would be an objective standard, but it's a standard that we
there we
all
go.
live to.
But why should I care about your opinion?
Well, why does your just brain stop whenever I say that there's no, if without God, there's no objective standard if that is
But
the case?
If we can argue opinions, then I can go, well, in
Well,
my
it's
opinion,
not just an opinion if it's something that we all agree upon. Like,
we
I'll
can't be
just say two
arbitrary
things.
in a debate. We can't be arbitrary. It doesn't matter.
Okay,
if
hold on a
it doesn't
second.
matter
Tell
if we
me,
agree.
tell me what's so arbitrary about acknowledging the fact that we're all individuals, we all share space, and to say we're all individuals, the next part from that is, we all have free will, we make our own decisions. This is ridiculous. You do not need a God for morals.
Well, then, can you explain to me what is your objective standard to say something's like good or bad?
Yeah, sure. We're all individuals. People do what they want with who they want, but that's their decision, and
This is a
someone cannot step
fallacy.
on anyone else's toes, and we all share
It's
space. with one another.
fallacies. This is
How?
that's a is-ought fallacy.
It is not. Okay, let me ask you, is this
Oh
an
my God.
is-ought fallacy? If God says something is moral, does that make it moral, just like when he commanded Moses to slaughter all the captives and keep little virgins for themselves? Does that make it moral when God says it's moral? I think your morals are more pliable than mine.
In the Christian worldview, the good is the will of God.
So if God says it's good, does that make it good?
Yes.
So then your morals are, in fact, if not equally as pliable, more pliable than mine, since I was able to give clear.
Incorrect. God's morals are based off his immutable character and nature.
Right, your God condones homophobia, sexism, slavery, rape, circumcision, a ton of other stuff. I don't need your God to be.
This is just. You already got another warning again, so we have to be.
Did you kick him?
Yeah, I was just sick of that crap. Like he just kept ignoring. He kept ignoring.
They're so oblivious to their immature thinking. They don't realize how vacuous their approach is.
It's pretty bad.
It's amazing how clueless they are. They think that just by taking a bickering stance that this is substantive.
I think we should start asking them, like, so are we allowed to just argue and debate fantasies? Is this what? Because they're literally coming up here and trying to argue their fantasies. This is what they're doing.
You notice how when you make a substantive response or defeater to them, they're constantly scurrying down semi-related rabbit trails.
Yeah, every time.
For those of you who are posting slavery in the chat, okay, in the word translated slave in the modern translations in the 20th century, it's simply a word. It's neutral. It means somebody who serves another. And they're making a mistake because you're not familiar with the Hebrew.
Correct. You would have to provide extra context to say that there was a negative connotation to the word eved.
Yeah, so people who are bringing up slavery, they're just simply capitalizing on the unfortunate translation choice of 20th century translators, because the word ebed, which is translated slave in the 20th century translation, the King James translators translated it servant. It's a neutral term. You'd have to show in any given context that it means
like servant could be a good thing and it could be a bad thing.
Yes. And by the way, there are too many verses that mitigate against kidnapping and forced servitude. So God commanded the Jews, they were not to oppress their fellow Jews or foreigners like they were oppressed in Egypt. Well, how were they oppressed in Egypt? By they were being forced to stay. They couldn't stay, and they were forced into labor.
It's funny. I mean, they grew up in the West where they get Christian values by the nature of growing up in a Western society, and then one of those values is that like slavery is wrong, and so then they take a Christian value and turn around and use a Christian value to say Christianity is bad. It's so ridiculous.
Well, what they're doing is because they're poor researchers. They don't look at the context. They don't look into the original languages, and they're looking. They're like 14-year-olds. They're going to the Bible. They're trying to find anything they can do to defame God.
That was my point that I was going to bring up, was just that they always hold us to the same quote unquote moralities of God, as if like I hate that so much, because obviously like you're not held to the same rules or following, I guess, if you would, that your parents are when you are a child. Like, you know, they teach you don't lie, but they can lie if they want to lie. Like, why do they always hold us humans as if we are the same? Whenever they do the morality argument, like, oh, well, your God says slavery is bad, this is bad, he's completely separate from what he teaches us, which is slavery is bad.
Because they think like children.
Yeah. But not even really, because if they thought enough,
they literally think like children.
Yeah.
So like he quoted when he was up here, he talked about where God said, take the young females for yourselves, right? And he's misquoting and misrepresenting the text. What it meant was, because these cultures were so evil and God was telling them to wipe them out, in one particular instance, he said, take the females for yourself, okay? In other words, God was showing mercy on them and saying, incorporate them into the society of Israel, okay? Nowhere does it say that they were to be raped or essayed, okay? They're reading into that text when essaying and graping is already prohibited by the Mosaic Law.
That's the thing too, is they absolutely never use any context when they start throwing scripture. They just throw the verse and then they're like, so explain that. Well, there's a whole freaking book you have to read to understand each line of it. Like, it's so ignorant.
Yeah, they're pathetic.
So
welcome, DJ. Do you
Yeah.
accept God as your creator?
No.
Can you tell me why?
I've seen no evidence for God.
Okay. Are you telling me that there's no evidence the world depends upon God?
That would imply that there's no evidence to God, yes.
Okay. Do you see evidence that the world is independent of God?
No, I suppose not.
I didn't hear you.
No.
Okay, well then you've contradicted yourself.
Just because I'm agnostic, it's a contradiction?
No. Well,
Well, you
first
just
of all,
defined agnostic and called it a contradiction, so what is it?
well, first of all, claiming to be an agnostic is just a label of self-identification. We
No, I can't
discussed
prove
how
God
that-
doesn't exist,
Why are you
so...
interrupting me?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just responding.
No, you were interrupting. So first of all, telling me you're agnostic doesn't settle anything. It's just a title of self-identification. So when you said there's no evidence for God, okay, that's just a stipulation that the world exemplifies independence from God, correct?
No.
Okay. If the world indicates evidence for God, is that the equivalent to saying the world indicates dependence upon God and derivation from God?
No.
Oh, it doesn't?
Yes.
Okay. Do you realize how stupid what you just said is?
Do you have to use ad hominems to ruin your arguments?
That's not an ad hominem.
Yes, it is. You just asked me how stupid I was.
No,
What
an
was
ad
that?
hominem would be your
An
argument.
implied ad hominem. I'm sorry.
Why do you keep on interrupting me?
Oh, sorry. I'll stop talking.
Okay, it's not an ad hominem. An insult or a criticism is not an ad hominem. An ad hominem is that
What criticism could I take from that?
Okay, goodbye, little boy. Okay, all right. So an ad hominem would be your reasoning for or against God is wrong because you're a slob or because you have a southern accent. That's what an ad hominem is. So when you say there's no evidence for God, that's the same thing as the world exemplifies independence from God.
They always think ad hominem means insult. They don't understand the difference. But they figured out God doesn't exist. They figured that out.
They're so steeped in their sloganized thinking, they don't even realize when they make elementary mistakes. To assert the world is not evidence of God is the equivalent of saying the world exemplifies independence from God. Because if the world exemplified as dependent upon God, it would be evidence for God. This is the problem when we talk with these people. They only think in terms of cliches, and then we show that they're cliches. They're just like deer in the headlights. Welcome, Social. Do you accept God as your creator?
Yes, of course I do, and I can prove it.
Okay, go ahead.
So, and by the way, I'm not a Christian, but we see eye to eye on this, and I feel like you don't need the Bible to prove God.
What are you?
I would be probably classified by Christians as a Gnostic, which I know like you guys aren't super into, but we both believe in God, and I feel like I could prove it without the Bible.
Okay, go ahead, do it.
I think the strongest evidence for God would be the moral argument. Considering a lot of non-Christians don't really take the Bible as serious. However, everyone knows you kind of... So there is scripture where I believe they say God wrote morals on your heart. What I believe that is referring to is like if you see like a child getting hurt or like a dog like getting hurt, like most people have an intrinsic type of like disgust.
Okay, so I'll be devil's advocate. Okay, so that's an evolutionary development.
Well, why would it be an evolutionary development, would you say?
That's just the way it is. That's just nature.
So, based on the atheistic worldview, there can't be such thing as an objective morality because what an atheist believes that humans are just meat sacks, just following their programming.
You're not focusing on my rebuttal. You're just talking about an innate moral inclination, and you're saying, "Oh, it comes from God." I'm speaking as devil's advocate here, and I'm just saying, "Well, that's just an evolutionary instinct."
I guess I would say that that's not. I'm not convinced that morality is an evolutionary instinct because it seems like
not being convinced is not a rebuttal.
Well, I guess then how would I rebuttal that?
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a very simple question.
Sure.
Are you ready to be blindsided?
Yeah, blindside me, please.
Yeah. Okay. Can God be known if God chooses not to be known?
I don't think so. If God chooses not to be known, we can't know him.
Right. Okay. So notice that your reasoning for God has nothing to do with God's revelation.
Yes, you're correct.
Good. So therefore, whatever line of reasoning that you give, regardless of how sophisticated it may appear, it cannot ground God's existence. Oops.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's true.
Yeah. I told you were going to be blindsided.
Oh, well, I still think it's possible to prove God without the Bible, and I think the moral argument is the strongest.
No, again, you repeating that again is like a dog going back to its vomit, okay? Because you just conceded seconds ago that you were just using reason and reason alone to establish God's existence. But then you admitted that reason alone cannot establish God's existence.
Well, so then are you then suggesting that we have to use the Bible or Scripture to know God?
I haven't even begun to tell you what my rationale is, but I'm trying to convey to you that your line of reasoning, okay, cannot establish God's existence. You told me that you could prove God's existence. What came out of your mouth did not establish God's existence. It was just an appeal to reason.
Well, then, how do you prove God's existence then?
By the only way that you can, that God takes the initiative whereby he reveals himself in creation and through human history.
I mean, that's true, but I just don't think you're going to get a lot of people with that.
If what I just said is true, then you are admitting that your line of reasoning to prove God is false.
I mean, yeah, but then if that's the case,
do you realize with a great deal of hoopla, you said you could prove God, and now you've admitted that you can't prove God.
Well, based on the parameters that you laid out, but
no, not just based upon the parameter, that you accepted that if God purposes not to be known, he cannot be known. You accepted that.
But that's not God's purpose, and we know this.
Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. It's clear, okay? So you failed to prove God.
How would you prove God then?
We prove God by recapitulating his revelation in creation and how he has revealed himself through the prophets, ultimately in Jesus Christ.
I mean, yeah, that works, but I just don't think that's compelling.
That it works. It's not that it works. It's the only way.
Well,
God can only be known by virtue of his revelatory actions. If you invoke some state of affairs or reasoning that does not exemplify God's revelatory actions, then God cannot be known.
Okay. Well, let's say
do you accept or dispute that?
I don't know. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not sure.
So God can be known outside or independent of his revelatory actions?
I mean, I believe...
That's a question, sir.
I don't know. but I do know that, like,
You now
if some,
contradicted yourself.
well, let me just explain something.
No, you're not going to explain something right now because I'm going to explain to you how you just contradicted yourself. You agreed earlier that God cannot be known if he purposes not to be known. Did you
Yes.
agree? Did you
Yes,
agree
I did.
to that? Good.
I do agree
so
to
that
that.
means is that God absent exemplifying revelatory actions or actualizing revelatory actions. Okay, absent that, God cannot be known. So the
No, that's not necessarily true.
Okay, all right. Look, I'm going to move on because you're not intellectually equipped to handle what I'm presenting to you because you're contradicting yourself repeatedly.
Dude,
God
you're just making the
have
atheists look good, honestly.
Have a nice day. Have a nice day. You're done.
Yeah, we're making the atheists look good. You know, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. So
Very accurate.
God flatly contradicts himself. One minute he says God cannot be known absent his revelatory actions, and then I point out that God can only be known when he actualizes his revelatory actions within creation. And he goes, oh, that's not necessarily true. He's contradicting himself. So, Robster, welcome. Do you accept God as your creator?
I do.
Okay. We're looking to talk with unbelievers.
No, but I do have a question though, because like there's a lot of like arguments that people have, and it's like just want to like know what your thoughts are, especially if it comes to like slavery. People always try to say the Bible like somehow condones that.
Yeah, that's because they have the minds of little children and they don't know how to do research. Okay, when the modern English translations use the word slavery, okay, in the original Hebrew, it doesn't mean for kidnapping and forced servitude. It is a neutral term that means to serve somebody or to be in service to another. And there are too many passages within the Mosaic Law that would prohibit kidnapping and forced servitude. So they're simply capitalizing on the word slave.
I see.
When we say in the modern day, when we say slave, it carries a connotation of like oppression and persecution, but the Hebrew word, did not have that connotation.
A slave in the Old Testament was anybody who acts in service to another. Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay. Do you know which passages I could like read to like learn more about this?
Yeah, what you can go to BibleHub.com and then go into the Hebrew interlinear and look up the word. It's ebed.
Ebed, okay.
It means servant. The King James Bible translators translated ebed, as far as I know, ubiquitously as servant.
And there's a lecture on YouTube by Peter J. Williams on biblical slavery that will have some good information there too about the topic.
He's a Bible scholar. I mean, he's not a Bible scholar in name like some of these clowns on YouTube, right? He's a genuine Bible scholar. He earns his living off of doing this, and he has a lecture that he gives to a lay audience, but he also has a scholarly paper, right, where he definitively shows that the word that atheists are capitalizing, slave, simply means servant. And so, like when it says you can buy and own slave and pass them on as an inheritance, right? Because the atheists are so lazy and lacking diligence, what they don't understand is that contractual servitude, right, can be bought and sold and passed on as inheritance. So it doesn't necessarily mean kidnapping and forced servitude. And in fact, God says to the Jews in the Old Testament law, you are not to oppress your fellow Israelites or foreigners the way that you were oppressed by Egypt. How did Egypt oppress Israel? By forcing them to remain.
You got cut off there, Darth.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, it's what Darth is saying. It's sort of like these are business transactions or like a business law. It's sort of like in America where we have different rules for like foreign and domestic workers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just the same thing. It's just going over the rules for like between employee worker relations.
Okay, I see. Um,
Because
yeah,
the atheists typically are lazy.
you have to take everything out of context. So
Well, look, because they can't falsify the God of the Bible, and they take the God of the Bible very seriously, but they hate the God of the Bible. So what they want to do is they want to slander and defame the God of the Bible, saying, "Oh, look, your God, your God unalived people here," and then they use the word genocide. Okay.
It'd be like someone 2,000 years from now saying like LeBron James was a slave because the owner of the team could trade him like property or something. Because it's just business language, right? Like a team owner. It's like a bit. We don't think of LeBron as a slave though, even though he has an owner.
I see. Okay. I also want to bring up another thing. People like always try to bring up that like God also like condones like SA, and I was in a live yesterday.
They're full of crap when they say that.
Yeah, but I think it was like if you go to
It's prohibited within the Old Testament.
okay, but like do you want to just help me like understand what God's talking about in I think Deuteronomy like the second half where it's like if like a man sleeps with like a virgin, then he has to pay like the father like 50 shekels.
The word in the Hebrew means to take hold of. Okay. Now, the to take hold of can be understood in different contexts, either to mean a forcible conquering, or what it mean can be to seduce a woman. Okay, so for example, I was listening to an unbeliever the other day talking about somebody taking a wife. Okay, and what they didn't realize was they were using the same kind of language that God used, right? Without realizing it. When they said to take a wife meant to select somebody who voluntarily wanted to be in a marital relationship with you, not a forcible kidnapping. Okay?
I see.
When it says if a man takes hold of a woman and did it, and then it says if they're found, whatever. There are already statutes within the Mosaic Law that says that grape is punishable by death, by stoning.
Yeah.
Okay? So they would have to allege this is a flat-out contradiction. Why would a man be forced to marry a woman and pay the father a sum of money when he's subject to the death penalty?
I see now.
So when it says if a man takes hold of a woman, right? The context, you see, in different languages, there are different nuances. And it's also true in every language that there are certain things that are highly contextual. Okay? So, for example, if I said to you, the New York Giants slaughtered the Los Angeles Rams or Chargers, you would never interpret that to mean that they committed homicide. Now, that's an extreme example, okay? But this is something that nobody would charge the New York Giants with homicide. Now, we're not using anywhere near the extreme language or hyperbole when we talk about taking hold of, okay? So when God says to Moses, take the virgins for yourselves, okay? There is no clear indication of saying using them for sexually immoral activities. It means you show mercy, you let them live, and you incorporate them back into the nation Israel. So to help repopulate Israel. It does not. There's no indication of SA or grape. So where are the atheists getting it from? They're imagining it in their head because they're trying to find passages to smear the God of the Bible.
All right. Yeah. That's all I really had, but thank you for clearing this up for me. God bless you too. Have a good day.
Okay.
I like it when you point out to them that the other passages contradict their interpretation of these texts, and they go, "Oh, that's just because the Bible contradicts." Rather than having like the humility to admit that their interpretation is whack.
Well, when there is a body of literature or communication, we operate under the principle of charity. Okay, and we assume that people are not glaringly contradicting themselves unless we have clear and compelling evidence that there's a contradiction. Because sometimes, and I'm not saying the Bible is guilty of this, there are sometimes when there is a superficial level that is there. Okay, so for example, when the late great Yogi Berra, who was a famous baseball player and sports commentator, referred to a restaurant and he said, "It's so crowded there, nobody goes there anymore." Now, that's called a yogiism. Nobody thinks that he's contradicting himself. It's just his inarticulate way of speaking. But I'm not saying the Bible is inarticulate. What I'm saying is that we must not assume that there's a contradiction unless there's a clear and compelling reason to show that. Welcome, Lurker. Do you accept God as your creator?
I do not.
Can you tell me why?
Can you tell me why I should believe that
Did
he
I
is the
just-
creator?
Did I just ask you a question?
Then I would say no. Can you tell me why I should accept him as my creator?
So, well, I'll be glad to answer your questions. However, so you're telling me that you have solved the single most important question in human existence in all of history, but
No,
without,
I am saying that the
why are
Bible
you? I'm
does
not
not
finished.
explain
I'm
it.
not, sir.
Because you're straw manning him, Darth. I think he said that he didn't have evidence for his position. Didn't you say that, Lurk?
I didn't say that.
Okay, my bad. I'm sorry. I was
That's
wrong.
the other previous person. So, is your God denialism rational or non-rational?
It is rational.
Good. What is the rationale that there is no God?
The onus is to prove that something exists, not to prove that something does not exist.
How old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay, then you shouldn't be responding to me, and I'm not trying to be antagonistic. You shouldn't be responding to me like a teenager at the cafeteria table. Okay,
That is antagonistic.
I'm going to explain to you why what I just said is true. Okay, because the topic du jour is your position. So what you're doing, you're coming up and you're identifying as a God denier. When I ask you to explain it, you're now responding with a typical atheist slogan of shifting the burden of proof slogan, okay? In order to insulate yourself from having to defend what your position is. I'm more than happy to argue and defend for what I believe. But right now at this juncture, we're talking about your position, are we not?
We are, but your point is that.
So what I would like
do
to
I get to
know
speak, or do you
is,
speak the whole time?
I would like for you to explain how it is that God doesn't exist.
Okay. I feel like you have a flaw in your logic here. It's the flying spaghetti monster. You can say that anything exists and not have a way to disprove it, because there is nothing that proves that what you're saying is real. Anytime you present an argument, what you would say is, well, God isn't chosen. God doesn't reveal himself unless he chooses to reveal himself.
Are you familiar with me?
No, I don't know anything about you.
Okay, all right, that explains it. Okay, so what you're giving is the worst of the worst, the bottom of the barrel, atheist cliched responses. Okay, you are making a universal, unqualified declaration. Is that correct? When you say there is no God,
Am I making a what?
a universal, unqualified declaration.
A universal, unqualified declaration. I'm not sure I know what that means, but I am saying that I do not believe there is a God. No.
Okay. So, are you saying that God does not exist because atheism has not been falsified?
I am saying the Christian God that you're presenting.
Answer. Well, that's not what we're talking about right now. What
You're
you just
asking me questions, and then I begin to
Look,
answer,
you know
and then
what?
instead of letting me speak, you choose to speak over me.
How old did you say you were?
I'm 35.
Okay, you're 35, and the way that you're speaking to me is like a bickering teenager speaks, like at the cafeteria table.
And the way you're speaking to me is like a patronizing parent that think you know everything and doesn't give anybody an opportunity to speak.
Goodbye. Okay. 35 years old. Okay, a teenager trapped in a 35-year-old body. You see, when they are unable to carry on a mature debate and disagreement, they just bicker like ornery, cranky teenagers at the cafeteria table. I think it's important for the believers listening, and you too, P. Mars, to understand this particular strategery. Is that when you have a absolutely pathetic defense or no defense at all, just bicker like a teenager, right? Did you notice how many times he interrupted me?
Well, what I was going to point out for everyone listening, when Darth was talking about universal unqualified declaration, so like when he says, "I don't believe in the Christian God," that would be a universal qualified declaration, because he's stipulating like a criteria of like specifically this instance of God. Whereas a universal unqualified declaration would be that it doesn't matter what condition or specification, that in all instances there would be no God.
So one of the things is when you ask people questions that probe and are trying to highlight and get them to defend their position, when they don't want to answer the question, they just go into bickering mode. They'll raise other questions that are semi-related so as to insulate themselves from actually answering the question. Okay, this is a well-represented tactic on the part of many atheists. Go into bickering mode. Okay? So because he was at a complete failure of being able to support that God does not exist, go into bickering mode, right? I would have loved to talk with him, but it was pointless. To say that he was cantankerous would be an understatement.
It's sad we got these people with large audiences, like you got a Richard Dawkins or even like a cosmic skeptic, and they don't use their influence and reach to help their audience actually argue their position. They set you guys up for failure by just giving you guys cliches and platitudes that get completely just decimated easily.
Welcome, War Party. Do you accept God as your creator?
I don't accept your presupposition, no.
That's not an answer to my question. I'll try.
I don't give a shit I don't give a shit what you say. All you want to do is hear yourself talk over and over again. Like, dude, get a...
Okay. We're going to move on. Another atheist genius, folks. Okay. Welcome, Yuma. Do you accept God as your creator?
No.
Can you tell me why?
I was actually ready to hear before, but because there's no substantiated proof.
Okay. Are you asserting that the world exemplifies independence from God?
I'm assuming that the universe, it can exist independently from God, yes.
Okay. So how did you determine that the world is independent of God?
Because there's no substantiating proof that
That
God.
that you're making an equivalency statement. You're stating the same thing in different words. When you say there's no evidence or proof, that it's the same thing as saying that the world exemplifies independence from God. Okay? So
Yeah,
how did you
so,
determine how did you
I saw no
determine
proof
how
of a
did
God.
you determine do you
Yeah,
hear me talking?
I
Okay,
hear you talking.
please don't be rude or I'll kick you. Right? So please explain how the world exemplifies independence from God and simply don't repeat an equivalency statement.
Okay. So, to be quite frank, the burden of proof isn't on me to prove
Okay,
the world
that is it. What you're
is
doing right
independent.
now,
It's
sir, listen to me carefully. Saying that you don't have a burden of proof is an absolutely deceitful and deceptive tactic in the conversation. The topic right now is your rationale. Notice when I ask you,
I don't believe God
please
exists.
do
So
not
therefore, we can't be
interrupt me.
dependent on
Did you hear what I just said?
him. Yes, I heard you, bud.
Please do not interrupt me. Now, I'm going to prove that you're resorting to a cheating tactic. I'm going to prove it. When you came in here, I asked you if you accept that God is your creator, and you said no. I asked you for a rationale for that. At that point, did you say that I'm shifting the burden of proof? Yes or no?
I did not. No.
Okay. So then when I asked you a qualifying question that simply clarified your position, I asked for further clarification of your position. Then you said I was shifting the burden of proof. Why didn't you say I was shifting the burden of proof when I asked you the first time? The reason why you're invoking a burden shifting response, right, is because you're at a point where you cannot defend your position that the world exemplifies independence from God.
Can I interject now?
Okay. Do you realize that you're cheating when you give a response like that?
Yeah, can I respond now?
Do you realize that you're cheating when you say I'm shifting the burden of proof? Because had all I asked was further clarification. How is me asking for further clarification burden shifting?
Got you. So am I able to respond now?
Is me asking for further clarification burden shifting?
By definition, no. We'll just say no.
Okay, so you've now contradicted yourself.
Can I talk now? Can I respond?
You realize you've contradicted yourself.
So can I respond though?
Goodbye.
Okay.
Yeah, you have the mind of a 15-year-old. So when I ask him to give an account of how the world is independent from God, he says that's burden shifting.
Yeah, he talked to me earlier before you joined. It was the same nonsense.
You see the duplicity here? Why is it that when we ask him, why do you believe there's no God, right? Why didn't at that point he say you're burden shifting? But when I ask a clarifying question when he says there's no evidence for God, all I'm doing, I didn't make a rebuttal. I asked a clarifying question. Then he says I'm burden shifting. Why, when I repeat the question a second time with terms of clarification, why is it that the first time it's not burden shifting, but when I ask a clarifying question, it's burden shifting? Do you see what's going on here?
The pot is calling the kettle black.
Bingo. So when they declare that we're shifting the burden of proof, in that action, they're literally shifting the burden of responsibility to explain their position. Because he cannot explain how the world exemplifies independence from God. And he realizes, oh crap, I can't explain how I determined the world is independent from God. I'm going to falsely accuse my opponent. Oh, you're shifting the burden of proof. Asking a clarifying question by your non-informative answer or semi-informative answer is not burden shifting. But when you invoke that I'm accusing somebody of burden shifting, can be true, but it can also be a tactic of evasion because you cannot give a rational accounting for your position.
I'd also like to point out, like, why is this pot calling the kettle black? Like, this pot sounds racist as hell.
So, yeah.
I'm just trying to do one joke an hour, Darth. Sorry.
I know. That's okay. That was good. I like it. I'm just still waking up. I haven't had my my caffeine yet.
Yeah.
So the point is this. So if I ask for further clarification, that's shifting the burden of proof? I mean, it doesn't get any dumber than that. Okay? So here we have prima facie evidence that when an atheist is asked for further clarification and support for their point of view, because they can't answer the question, they go on the offensive. You're shifting the burden of proof. How is me asking for clarification of your position shifting the burden of proof? It's not. So it's a cheating diversionary tactic and a false accusation in order to insulate yourself and deflect from giving further clarification for how the world is not evidence for God or the world is independence from God. So don't ever forget that, people, the Christians in the audience, and you PMARs, that they will pull out the shifting the burden of proof card so as to insulate themselves from further clarification to support their position that they haven't actually supported yet.
They even do this, like, let's say Darth were to present evidence or like the transcendental proof. Well, now his opponent would have an evidential burden, and they'll still shift the burden, even though they have the evidential burden. They'll still say, like, oh, that's not an argument, that's not evidence. Well, that's shifting the burden. That's a hand wave dismissal.
If I said, I believe God exists, and I would like for you to show me why he doesn't exist, that's not burden shifting. On the other hand, if I said, God exists, and I assert that he exists until and if you show that he's false, that would be burden shifting. So you see, atheists, with rare exceptions, are intellectually inept in this kind of reasoning, okay? Because there's no burden shifting going on here. But they're accusing burden shifting so that they can shift the burden and the responsibility of them clarifying and explaining why their atheism is rational. Welcome, Grassy. Do you accept God as your creator?
No, sir, I don't.
Can you tell me why?
For me, it was just personal experience growing up. I was raised Catholic, and as time went on, I had questions that weren't answered by authoritarian figures that I had in my life, and I just slowly shifted away from the faith.
Oh, so you have unanswered questions, therefore there is no creator? Oh, that makes perfect sense.
More so, my issue is with the community. I don't necessarily.
Did you hear what I just said? Did you hear the sarcasm? You have unanswered question, therefore there is no God. Does that make sense?
It's funny to me how you complain when other people interrupt you, yet you interrupted me.
Yeah, for good reason. I interrupted you with cause because you're just simply giving me some testimony how people treated you. How does having unanswered questions entail that there is no creator?
Lack of faith. If I have questions that don't get answered, that would be important to me.
Yeah, telling me, okay, telling me that you have an absence of belief
Twice.
doesn't okay, listen carefully. Is it your position that there is no God? Or are you trying to represent yourself as saying, "Oh, I'm just unconvinced. I'm undecided."
I am undecided, probably. I don't fully believe that there isn't a God, but I also don't fully believe that there is.
Oh, okay. So let me ask you this question. Will you accept right now and assert the necessity of God for all states of affairs? And you're undecided. Because to say, I believe God is not a necessity, is to deny the existence of God. So, how is it that God doesn't exist?
It's about belief and faith, though, no.
You're not.
It's about belief and faith, though, no.
You're not giving me. How old are you?
I'm 22.
Okay, you're not giving me the answers that a young adult male should give. You're not. It's not informative. I would like for you to give me a rational, informative answer of how you determine that God does not exist. Giving me responses that you're unconvinced is a misrepresentation of your position. Your position is that there is no God. You said that God is not necessary. That constitutes the denial of God. So please explain to me why God doesn't exist.
I don't see how necessity has to do with disproving the existence of God.
Okay. When you represent yourself as being neutral or undecided toward God, but you say that God is not necessary, that's a contradiction in terms. Because to say that God is not necessary is a judgment that something else is, right?
Yes, but that's
So
my personal judgment.
I'm trying to explain to you that in logic and philosophy, when you assert certain propositions, if you say God is not necessary, then what follows from that is God cannot exist.
What to you makes God a necessity?
I'll get to that in a moment. Do you have an answer to my opening question as to why God does not exist?
In order for me to properly answer your question, I need to
Okay, we're done. We're
consider
done with
necessity.
we're done with your 15-year-old trapped in a 20-year-old 22-year-old
You
body
always
doctrine.
just run to insult.
We're done. So notice the pattern of behavior, my fellow believers in the audience and PMRs. Notice the pattern of constant verbal dodging, right? These people can't even basically and clearly support their position. It's always, no, I don't accept that there is a God. But then when you say to them, oh, how did you determine there's no God? Oh, uh, I'm just unconvinced.
It's like they have an allergy to answering questions or something. They physically cannot answer a question directly.
Yeah, they go, okay, so do you accept God as your creator? No, I don't. I do not accept that there is a creator. They're making an affirmation which constitutes the denial of God. When then asked to explain and account for the denial of God, they shapeshift to incredulity. Oh, I'm not denying there's a God. I'm unconvinced. I mean, you see the deceptive thought patterns and verbal representations here. They go from making statements which constitute the denial of God to then saying, "Oh, I'm not denying God. I'm just unconvinced." What they're trying to do is that they're doing the little game that we're burden shifting. That when they say they're unconvinced, oh, we're just bringing in a novel introduction or a novel overlay upon an already pre-existing world. You see the pattern of behavior? This is a chronic pattern of behavior that we see with atheists. Welcome, Hard Tech. Do you accept God as your creator?
I do.
Okay, we're looking to talk with unbelievers.
I know, but I have a question for you, and
Make it quick, please.
sure. Is the point of this live to convert or to give information that may cause unbelievers or people who are atheists to turn or to want to learn more about God or the existence of God? Or is the purpose of this debate to simply debate and call names? Because what I see is you guys are doing a disservice to any purpose of trying to turn people to God.
Doing a disservice. Did I call anybody names unjustifiably?
Unjustifiably is an interesting word there.
If you don't answer the question, if you dodge like atheists do, I'm going to kick you.
I didn't dodge the question. I said that your use of the word unjustifiably.
Okay, sir, you are dodging.
Okay.
Did I call anybody names unjustifiably?
Yes.
What name did I call somebody that is unjustified?
Well, you've called people liars and all types of different names that you would justify.
They weren't being deceptive.
You would justify it as being deceptive, and many others wouldn't.
You are doing right now is you are being deceptive by dodging my question.
I answered your question.
You said, "Sir,
I answered yes."
Please do not be rude." Okay, now, you can giggle like a schoolgirl all you want.
Schoolgirl, is that a name?
I did call people. That's right. I said if you want to act like a schoolgirl and giggle,
so I can't.
Sir, you know what? How old are you?
35.
Okay, you are not acting like a 35-year-old man right now. You're acting like a bickering teenager with me. Now, I did refer to them as liars because they do lie. They do acts of deception when they dialogue and they debate. Do you want to dispute that atheists in general are not deceptive and evasive when simply asked to explain their position? You want to say they're not evasive?
Many are, yes.
Yeah, so now you're agreeing with me.
No, I'm not. What the issue with what you're doing in general?
Wow, you know what?
Here we go.
You are either you're lying right now or you're really dumb.
You need to read Romans.
Here we are.
2.
So I can't say what I'm trying to say. You're cutting off.
You need to read Romans 2, Hard Tech. You need to read Romans 2.
There's lots of chapters and verses in the Bible. You guys need to.
Did you say you're a Christian?
I said I believe in God. You didn't ask that, but I will answer that question. I am a Christian. I just said.
What a deception!
I just said I am a Christian.
I'm going to ask you a question.
I answered your question. You guys don't listen.
If you're a Christian, I implore you to act more becomingly instead of acting like atheists do.
Anybody
have a nice day. You're a liar. Goodbye. Yeah,
okay.
You're an awful person. You kicked the wrong person, Darth.
What's that?
You kicked the wrong person.
Really?
The other person you can request back. I'll try to get you on.
Okay. Sometimes okay.
That was funny. Like sometimes, a couple times, Darth has kicked himself.
Yeah, because I'm looking down at the screen and then I look up when I touch the screen.
It's so funny when you're like, bye bye, and then you leave the stage.
That is funny.
It was pretty funny.
It is. It's funny.
I accidentally added someone else. So let's go let Panteism.
Yeah, so let's say what. Okay, so for the Christians listening, what that last person was doing is they're professing to be a Christian in order to have a kind of street cred, and then in order to criticize us rather than to be transparent that they're actually atheists. Okay, so a Christian who knows their Bible, especially Romans 1 makes it very clear that God's existence is unambiguously clear and rationally undeniable. So to deny God is a form of lying about what God has made clear. Okay? So a Christian who understands Romans 1 in the Bible would have to agree that atheists are lying when they say that the world is not a clear testimony to God's existence. It's a form of self-gaslighting. It cannot be rationally justified. So a true Christian especially a Christian who knows their Bible, would not give me a hard time on that, because the Bible makes it very clear that unbelievers are lying to themselves and others.
It says open rebuke is better than hidden love, and this guy is promoting hidden love.
Yeah. So that guy was not a Christian. He was just saying he's a Christian so that he has street cred to say, "Oh, well, you're not falling in line with us Christians." Welcome, Pante. What would you like to say?
So I just wanna be able to get to talk to you for a bit, cause I think I've.
Can you get to the point, please? I have a limited lifespan.
I grant you God being the necessary being, but how would I be able to accept the position of Christianity?
Jesus' self-testimony claims, okay, representing the triune God, that attribute set is self-authenticating and self-attesting and cannot be rationally denied. In other words, the property set that he has being perfect in terms of his attributes will be the necessary precondition for all actuality, reason, truth, and intelligibility therein. If you do not accept that composite attribute set that Jesus Christ testifies to, right, then you will be operating from a different model of reality. And you're going to have to explain what the fundamental grounding of your model of reality is and how it actually provides for actuality and intelligibility, which that will be an impossible task, because in a world apart from Jesus Christ, it's going to be shrouded in ultimate mystery. So Jesus Christ's testimony is authoritative because it is self-authenticating. Okay? If you choose to disregard that, then you're making a counterclaim, which you're going to have to explain. So Jesus establishes his identity on his own self-authenticating authority.
So how is this wait?
Jesus, through his own teachings and his appointed representatives, the apostles, reveal that he is the second person of the Godhead who has an attribute set of being absolute, eternal, omniscient, omnipotent, always truth revealing, and a salvific God. And when we look at that compositely, that composite attribute set is exclusive. No other worldview can have it. And it's indispensable for all invoking of actuality and intelligibility. If you do not accept that his own testimony is self-authenticating, you're going to be making either an explicit or an implicit worldview counterclaim, which you're going to have to explain. But you won't be able to, because your world is shrouded in ultimate mystery. When your world is shrouded in ultimate mystery, there is no worldview to defend. So if you reject the self-authenticating, self-identity claims of Jesus in the scriptures, right, you will be left with making an irrational counterclaim. And then you will face Christ on Judgment Day when he gave you the opportunity to enter into his love, mercy, and forgiveness.
Okay, so wait. So I think I kind of follow you there. But the part I'm still having a problem with, so how could we know this for sure? At least how could I know this for sure?
I just explained it to you. That his attribute set that he communicates is exclusive and indispensable. How do you know that oxygen and water are exclusive and indispensable? Because they are. Try to do without them and see what happens. Do the properties and attributes of oxygen and water provide for life? Yes. Can you do without them? No. Do the property set that Jesus testifies that he possesses, in the case that he possesses them, would they provide for the actuality of the world and intelligibility? Yes. Can you falsify that by representing a worldview that provides for actuality, intelligibility? No. So Jesus' self-testimony claims are just like saying oxygen and water are exclusive and indispensable to remain alive. I'm going to go AFK, PMARS, so I'll be listening, but I'm going to mute my mic.
So it's just I'm trying to follow, and I think I get it in a way from a position of atheist, but I still grant God as the necessary being. So my question kind of still remains: there's still no way for me to know that Jesus really had those attributes, because I could still understand them. Because before I could argue against it, like you said, I would have to accept that God is a necessary being, which I do, and I have its sets of attributes. How could I know for sure that Jesus had those sets exclusive attributes?
To know anything for sure, you need a system of truth. And so only the Christian system of truth uniquely can provide for truth. No, there's no other system of truth that could ground truth or make sense of truth. It would, all the other systems, if you don't take Bible as the authority in your system, you won't have a system of truth. You won't be able to make sense of anything. So that's how you know, because it's the impossibility of, to the contrary, you couldn't deny it, that it's literally necessary to say anything is true. And if you reject what?
That I kind of don't agree with, though.
But that's a problem. Because, like, I'm saying the Bible's my authority in my system. You say the Bible's not the authority, right?
Yeah, no, I still base on morality, like our sense of morality.
Okay, but like to say the Bible's not the authority in the system, you're gonna have to appeal to another system with another authority. So, like, what authority would you be appealing to that's not the Bible?
Well, no, because I still, like I said, I still grant God. I still grant God as the authority.
Uh-huh. But I'm saying the Bible is the authority. You don't think the Bible is the authority, right?
No, I think what we put in the Bible is the authority.
Okay, but I'm talking about my position is the Bible's the authoritative word of God. You don't agree with me. Are we on the same page? Are we lost in the sauce?
Yeah, no, we're not on the same page. Right.
Oh, we're not. Okay, so you think the Bible's the authoritative word of God?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. You're right. I don't think it's the ultimate
Right.
authority of God.
Okay, so then, but to say look, that's not the authoritative word of God, you have to appeal to another authority. So I'm asking you, what is the authority if it's not the Bible?
Well, pantheism, I would say, is ourselves.
Okay, well then that makes everything arbitrary. So that would destroy the possibility for truth.
No,
So
it wouldn't be
because that's
arbitrary, because it's still got to be social constructs.
Yeah, which means I can just I decided Christianity's true, therefore I win the debate.
I mean, that's how it is right now. We have Christianity.
All right, man. Well, I don't know. I tried to explain it to you, but I don't think we're really getting anywhere. So I think I should give someone else a chance to be wrong about Christianity.
All right, but then so there's no proper way.
Welcome, Michael.
What's up?
Do you accept God as your creator, or do you have any problems with any of the? I have 3 things up here I'm claiming, I guess.
Like, I'm not against God. I just don't like. I'm not very fully convinced in everything, and there are some questions I would like to have answered because they're like my family's Christian, right? And I've always been on the fence, and there are just some things that haven't been able to be rationalized in my head, and I was hoping to get some insight.
Okay, well, I'd kind of push back on that a little bit, though. Like, I think God's sort of like obvious, and so you either like accept his revelation or you don't.
Well, I think there are some things to me that were just like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't feel obvious or that doesn't feel rationalized.
Like what? Like what are you? Okay, what are your questions?
So the first thing I have an issue with is, or do you think God is all knowing, all powerful?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think we have free will?
Yes.
Do you think those two things can coexist?
Yeah, because knowledge doesn't entail that like his knowledge causes your choice.
But it would entail that it's predetermined.
No, the Bible is very clear that the future is not predetermined and that our choices can affect the future.
But if he knows the outcome and he knows exactly what choice we're going to pick, that would say that the choice is predetermined because he already knows which reality is going to happen.
Well, if you understood modal logic, you're making a mistake between the necessity of the consequence and the necessity of the consequent. So it just doesn't follow. Like we can know things, but knowledge doesn't mean that the knowledge causes the thing. It's like a category error. Like knowledge doesn't cause. So you're just making a mistake in logic. So I don't know. You can reject what I'm saying. You can look up what I'm saying. I'm not wrong. Or you can just disagree and then be wrong in the future. So what do you want to do, Michael? Do you want to go around being wrong? Because honestly, I don't mind, right? If you want to go around and say things that are wrong, like that doesn't hurt me. That just makes you look bad, right? So you're welcome to be wrong. I guess Michael left. I can't. Yeah, he's Googling. Google it. Did you Google it, Michael?
So was I not talking to you? Hello?
When you're alt-tabbed, when you're off the app, I could not hear anything you were saying there.
Oh, well, my mom was asking me about my dog, but I was trying to say I never stated anything. Like I'm asking questions. I'm not here saying anything's true. I'm asking questions.
Are you 18?
I'm 19.
Okay. So did I answer your question? I can't. Where were we?
I'm just like, okay, so I never said anything is true that I believe in. I'm a little confused on how free will and an all-knowing God can exist.
Yeah,
like you explained to me that knowledge doesn't dictate the decision, but I don't agree. Like I don't see how that.
Okay, so you just want to be. You just want to be wrong, and you don't.
No. I want that explained more. Like if you explain it more, I can see it. I need
like how to like you're making it. So do you know the sun's gonna rise tomorrow?
Yeah, of course.
Do you cause the sun to rise tomorrow?
No.
So knowledge doesn't cause things. There you go. Next,
but there's no free will involved there.
Okay, but you were arguing that because God knows your choice, that he causes your choice. And I just demonstrated that there's a difference between knowledge and causation. Okay, so you're making an error in modal logic. You're confusing the necessity of the consequence and the necessity of the consequent. And if you don't understand what I said, I don't know how to explain it or like dumb it down more, really.
I think that's a false equivalency.
Okay, well, Michael, you're welcome to be incorrect and go make a fool of yourself.
But I just don't understand why you're so close to having a conversation. Why are you yelling at me?
I'm not, Michael.
Why can't you conversate? Why is it like you can just choose to be
Michael,
wrong?
if I want to learn something, I go to books and like experts. I don't learn things from talking to ignorant Michaels on TikTok.
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking questions, and I'm not enlightening you. That's why I'm up here asking you questions.
Michael, I explained how you're wrong, and you arbitrarily,
dude. There's nothing to be wrong about. I'm asking a question.
Michael, you're incorrect.
I can't be wrong.
Michael, you're
I'm asking a question.
Michael, you're incorrect.
Okay.
Michael, you're incorrect.
If I ask you a question and you say you're wrong, that's just nonsensical.
Okay.
So like, what?
Well, I'm gonna move on. I don't talk to flat. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Well, you are certainly a 19-year-old. Welcome. Oh, it's CeeLo.
Hey, Precept, how you doing today?
Doing well.
That's good. That's good.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, I don't think that last guest really understood that the conversation, like the question was answered completely.
Darth, how do you account for intelligibility in your godless worldview?
Well, I'm just gonna presuppose everything and talk over everybody and think I'm important. Yeah.
Only I am allowed to be funny, sir. Now, tell me, how are you accounting for intelligibility in your godless model of reality?
You should wipe Darth off of your mouth, dude.
Only I'm allowed to be funny. You're breaking my rules. Stop telling jokes.
Yeah, I'm Darth, and I got followers that need to wipe themselves off of their mouth. Yeah.
I'm being oppressed and persecuted. Nobody follows my rules. Stop being funny.
So why did Darth run?
Are you going to account for intelligibility in your godless model of reality, or are you going to make bad jokes?
Your presuppositions are a bad joke at best.
You know that there's books on comedy that will help you be funny, like Del Close. You heard of Del Close?
You know, there's books that can help you get out of the 80 IQ point of view.
Well, I recommend Del Close, right? He's a comedian. He's wrote books that will help you be funny if you're interested in being funny.
I recommend lighting your Bible on fire.
Okay, well, thank you for coming, and I wish you well.
I'm not gonna let you talk. Darth, so fast.
I think there's some natural talent there, but it's raw. It's extremely raw. Welcome, Connor.
That was funny.
So,
It was.
what would you like to say, Connor?
I mean, I've already been up here before on your lives before. I kind of wanted to point out a few things that earlier in the live, I believe. No, Darth, no.
No, I'm gonna talk over you.
I did a little bit of research, and I believe Darth's translation of the Hebrew text is a little off-putting, and I feel like yeah, so Eved and Mishet are two different synonymous terms for servant, right? Mishet was in context in the Hebrew culture as like an aide or a servant, like the aides of a house or like a maid, right? A servant who chose to be there. Eved was a servant under non-neutral circumstances to where they were either put into servitude by punishment or... No. I'll bring up the source. And it's a servant under non-neutral circumstances, like they lost a war and they were put into servitude.
I have a better story. Peter J. Williams wrote a paper on this, and he definitively shows that the word it should not be translated as slave. It should be translated as servant, because there is no negative connotation to the word.
Yes, there is. It's the word mishet in Hebrew. It's servant of aid or
the word we're talking about is eved.
Eved it can also be translated to bondsman or bondswoman, somebody bonded under.
That's the word we're talking about. Eved. It's neutral.
Yeah, but so in context, it was used as for servants, not in it was used in unneutral circumstances, right? Like prisoners of war, servants under, like if you owed somebody a debt, you had to serve them. That, of course, is against somebody's own accord, right? But Mishet was correctly used as of like an aide or like a companion or somebody who served righteously under you. Like in the Bible, it says that we're Mishets under the Lord. We're helpful servants. We choose to be there. We choose to aid. We want to be there. That's how it was used. Eved was more of like you're going to be my servant, if that makes any sense. I just wanted to
No,
clear that up. If
this was
someone thought
voluntary. This was not. No, it wasn't. You would have to provide context, right, to say why Eved would be like have a negative connotation, because it doesn't within the Hebrew language. There's no negative connotation. This just showed in Peter J. Williams. He wrote a paper on this.
Well, even another connotations, Eved is also used in prisoners of war turned into servants. It uses Eved, and in Mishet, there's context that it's used as the maids of a house or people who owed a debt and were put into servitude. The word specifically used is Mishet, not Eved. So, what about the connotation of that? What about the context?
I mean, I don't debate this, man. I'm not really an expert on this. I would just like point you to the Peter J. Williams paper.
No, and that's what, like, I've read into the Peter James Williams paper. I mean, I was reading during the live. I read into it. I get what he's coming across as. Eved was a neutral term used as of like an aid, but according to other sources and even other Hebrew texts, it wasn't all the time. Sometimes it was, but a majority of the time
Yeah,
it wasn't.
no, but his point, when it's used in a negative connotation, there has to be some context to give it the negative connotation.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm, and I agree with you on that.
In the
We're
newer
agreeing.
translations, when they translate it slave, there is not that negative context. The translators are taking a liberty there. That's the point of the paper.
They're taking a liberty. What do you
For
mean by that?
example, like in the King James version of the Bible, they didn't translate the word slave. They translated as servant. So do you know the slaveholders in America didn't use those passages that the atheists on TikTok?
Yeah, I know they didn't.
They used the curse of Ham because that word slave wasn't in those passages, and they understood that was different than slavery. They understood that was a different thing. So you can't say those are the same things.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's Mishet and Eved both mean the same thing, just in different contexts. Because I feel like we're on the same page here. We're agreeing.
Okay, I'm not really sure what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, what context are you referring to?
In what word, Mishet or Eved?
Both, I guess.
Mishet was often used to apply to someone who was an aid, like when Moses was aided and accompanied through the desert. His followers or people who aided him personally were referred to as his Mishets, his aides, his companions, while Eveds, not all the time, a majority of the time, when referred to people of servitude under debt, or if like you're a prisoner of war and it's like, you become unalived, or you become my Eved, which is bondsman or bondswoman under a non-neutral circumstance.
It was used in Egypt, but they would attach phrases like "to make bitter" and stuff. There would be context as to why, like the Eved in Egypt was different than the Eved in like Israel, because of the words that they would surround Eved. Because that was like an oppressive persecution type of Eved, but that's made clear in the text by the context, where that context isn't in the other texts that the atheists point to when it's talking about like master can beat their slave, and if the slave doesn't unalive in 3 days or whatever it is, like that's a different thing than what was going on in Egypt.
Mm-hmm. And they use the word differently. Yeah, I understand that.
That lot, like, they're not saying that you're just free to just beat your slave whenever you want, because they're saying like within that context you would have a justification for like punishing your slave.
But in what morally righteous worldview is there even justification to have a slave in the first place?
It's not a slave. It's a worker. They're workers. They're volunteer. They could leave at any time. They're not forced to do anything against their will. These people consent to all this stuff.
Well, okay, so I agree with you on that in some circumstances they did, but what about the circumstances where they were prisoners of war or they were in debt to somebody?
I'm not like an expert.
The Eved was also used in that context as well.
I'm not an expert on all this stuff, but obviously like they had a law system and they punished people. So we do too. Like if someone is dangerous to our society, we restrict their freedoms.
That's true.
They didn't have like slave markets. They weren't going around like capturing people based on skin color and then like oppressing them based on skin color or something. They were in an ancient world. Economic circumstances were different. They had probably scarce resources. They didn't have technology in abundance in our modern world. So their economic laws are different. They're just going to seem weird, but they're nothing like it was. They couldn't persecute or oppress people. They were called to like love and treat people with dignity and respect.
Okay. Well, what about the verses where it calls for when they unalived the firstborn son and the father, but took the virgins for themselves? What was the context behind that? I know Darth explained it as to convert them and to repopulate Israel, but if that was the true purpose of just bringing glory to Israel, why wouldn't they just take the
They just
firstborn
incorporated
son and the
them.
father as prisoners
They
and convert
incorporated
them?
them into their society and they just treated them as equals.
Okay, why didn't they do that with the men and the firstborn sons? So I mean, what I'm saying is like,
I don't talk about this stuff. This is not why are you coming at me? This is I do the transcendental argument for God. That's what I'm here to do. Do you want to talk
I
about
was
that?
just bringing up other stuff on your life. I mean, if you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to talk about it. I'm not going to push
I'm not a
anything.
Bible scholar. It's like I'm ignorant on these topics, and I admit this. So I don't understand like why are you pressing me on stuff like this?
Okay, I'm not trying to. My bad.
Well,
That's on
anyway,
me. It's my bad.
you got a defeater for tag yet? I doubt.
Transcendental argument for God, the necessity of a God. I've been thinking about it.
I
I've been
mean,
watching your lives in regards to you can't have an objective grounding for truth if it's not grounded in anything. And I'm on the contrary about it.
philosophers, like secular philosophers, they just make stuff up like blind faith. They go like, here's what I think metaphysics is, and then here's this epistemology based on my metaphysical assumptions. But that's bullshit. They're making an illegal move there. They can't do that. So they can't really speak about the world in any intelligible way. They're just a bunch of smarty pants doing, intellectual self-satisfaction.
You can't talk over me.
Intellectually self-satisfying themselves.
Okay, well, what about when you and Darth claim that through the self-validity of Jesus' testimony, therefore it makes it validated because he's the ultimate power, stated in of himself? How does that not give other scientific findings its own self-validity?
Because science isn't like absolute and self-contained. We're saying Jesus is absolute and self-contained.
But okay, so where's the validity under that statement, though? But so, okay, before you answer, besides going to because he said it in the Bible.
Yeah, but don't you understand? Like, if we have a system of truth, the ultimate authority is going to be self-authenticating or like you're asking me, how do I verify my verification principle? Well, the verification principles would be verified in virtue that it's what we use to see if anything's true or false.
Okay, then I can use the same logic to apply it to scientific practice. It's self-validity. But you're stating that that's not the case. It can't be self-validating. It must be grounded in something. But the thing that it's grounded in is also self-validating. That doesn't make any sense.
Because science isn't like absolute, self-contained, eternal.
How is it not?
What do you mean? It's like it relies on tons of things. It's not self-contained, right? Science relies on logic. Science can't prove logic. Science relies on math. Maybe you could argue science. I don't know. I don't think science really proves math. Science relies on what, uniformity of nature, just like tons of crap science relies on.
Well, yeah, because that's where it gets its self-validating claim from. I'm using the same logic towards
the thing that's
self-validating claim
no,
to
you're
Jesus.
not. You're not using the same logic because it's for the thing, the self-authenticating entity. It can't derive and depend on anything else. That's what it means to be self-contained. So science depends on other things. So it can't be self-authenticating. Just to be self-authenticating, you have to be self-contained.
Okay, then how is the claims of Jesus self-contained if he had to get his apostles to share his testimony?
The Christian God does not depend on anything outside of itself. It's ultimate.
But Jesus did in order for his apostles to spread his word.
No. The word was spread through the power of the Holy Spirit.
So you're telling me without any conversion throughout the hundreds of, no, I'm not going to say hundreds of thousands, but thousands of years, the missionary work, the crusades that happened, you're telling me if that any of that never happened, Christianity would still be on the same scale it is today globally?
Well, that missionary work is only possible through God. Like, the idea in Christianity is that God pours his love into our hearts, and then our will aligns sort of with him, and we do things through God.
Okay, well, if it was self-containing, then it wouldn't need an outside source to spread the information. It would just automatically implant that information into the host that it wanted to.
It just doesn't know it. You just don't know what the hell you're talking about.
The guy's an idiot.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
He's not. God isn't reliant on the apostles to talk about God. God has a redemptive plan through history in the person of Jesus Christ. They didn't have like fucking Twitter back then. They told stories and wrote it down. This is. And also, I like that the first thing he says when he's like, I did research into this, and then he proves it by telling you what TAG stands for. Like, that's a good first step, I guess.
He said he's been listening to our streams a lot. He does keep coming up here, but he's always just a nonsense person. Like, he's just bickering with me. Like, to say, like, oh, God's not self-contained because he just literally came up with that argument on the spot and doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But all that matters is he disagrees, right? I see this guy.
I promise not to be funny, and I will bow out respectfully when Darth returns.
Oh, so you just kick people when you disagree with them or you can't rebuttal?
Yeah, you got a problem with that?
Yeah, I just think it's funny. I mean, I think it's a
Okay,
little
in your godless model of
what's
reality.
the point of this? What's the point of this? So what?
God.
So let's say all this is true. So what?
In your godless
Why do you
model,
think this matters to anybody? Why should I care?
in your godless model of reality, why should I not?
Why
kick
should I
people?
care? Why should I care about your opinion on my model?
Oh my God. What are you
Bro,
arguing?
why should I care? You came into my live and you asked me why you should care about what I was saying. Why should I care about what you have to say?
Why did you come up? You don't care what he has to say.
No, I'm asking him why I should care. Why would I not pose the same question to him? Are you retarded?
Because if you don't listen to it, here, look, I'll tell you. If you
Slurp's brain doesn't work.
If you don't care about Jesus, you're going to hell.
Why should I care?
To avoid hell.
Why should I care about hell?
Okay.
Why should I care if I'm going to hell?
Yeah, why should
Yeah, I don't know. Why should you? Just go to hell.
Hey,
What do I have to do? Threaten these people's family to get them to be a Christian?
hey, how
What's
you
wrong
guys
with
doing? Can you hear me?
Welcome, Barry.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Doing
Hey,
well.
listen, I was listening a little bit. I wanted to ask a question. How does the Bible, the Christian God, be deemed as a good God? When you read the Bible,
We would say he's good in the sense, not in like a moral sense. Like he's not. We wouldn't say he's. I wouldn't say he's like morally good. I don't know if Darth might be mad at me for that, but I'd say he's like the standard of what's good, as opposed. So he's like good in this. He's like good in the sense that he has all the great making properties. Like he knows everything. He's omnibenevolent, omnipresent, etc.
how does he knows everything, but he asks Adam, where are you?
Yeah, that was a rhetorical question. Like when I ask you, how do you ground intelligibility in your godless worldview? It's really rhetorical because I know that you
Well,
can't
what-
answer that question.
A rhetorical question is a question that doesn't need to be answered, but Adam answered them.
Exactly.
Then he asked him another one, so it's not a rhetorical.
No, sometimes you ask rhetorical questions that incite an answer. It's not true.
So, another thing, like, if God knows the beginning from the end, right, he can very much start at the end and work his way backwards, right? If you know
I
everything
don't
from the
know
beginning
how
to the end.
did he reveal that to you, or are you just pulling that out of your butt?
No, what I'm saying, if he knows the beginning from the end, right? If he knows everything, he can start whenever he wants and devise a plan. Like if you know how to build a house,
Mhm.
that's just basic, right?
Did
Logic.
God tell you he can do that?
What did God say? He knows the beginning from the end.
Well, you're making claims about what God can and can't do, right? So I'm just wondering, like, how would you know anything about God unless God revealed that to you?
No, what I'm saying in the Bible, it does it not say he knows the beginning from the end?
Oh, so you accept the
Omniscient.
Bible? So you accept the
He's
Bible?
it's
Wait,
literature.
are
I
you?
said it's the literature. I'm just talking about the literature. That's what you read, right?
Uh-huh. So you're trying to
So
do like an
is
internal
that
critique?
true? Now I'm gonna ask you: is that true? He's omnipresent, omniscient. You know, the
Yeah.
beginning from the end, Alpha and
Yeah.
Omega. That's what the Bible says, right? So,
Mhm.
what I'm saying is, if he knows the beginning from the end, everything is his fault. Like the universe has billions of planets. It's like, and then he makes a planet and puts Adam and Eve in a garden, puts an evil tree there,
Can you
puts
get
a
to the point?
no, I'm taking it down, and he puts the snakes there,
We've read the
and he
Bible.
and he watches everything happen. So why is it not his fault? It was his intention for this to happen, and
Well, he kind of take responsibility by sacrificing his son for our sins. So even if it is like his fault,
so you murder your, so you unalive your son for the mistake that, so something that you did. You the problem and the solution.
what?
It's pretty evil, man.
So you'd rather God didn't create you?
It's pretty evil. Like he
Okay.
created hell to torture people. Like everything was divine. He might as well put hell first, then put Adam and Eve there,
Well,
and then set everybody up to get killed. Then he flooded and murdered and unalived everybody. This guy is not a good person.
This is like a high school essay on why I'm mad at God.
so
Well,
like, but don't we put like bad people in prison? How is that different from what God is doing?
yeah, but no one's called the person good though when they go to prison. This guy has
But
been
we think
taunted
our
as good
justice,
and loving.
no, we think it's a good thing that justice is served. If you harm another person, you have to pay a debt to society, right?
I agree
So
with that.
we owed a debt to God because we broke God's law. And
No one asked.
therefore the debt had to be paid. Now, because God loves you, he sacrificed his own son to pay the debt, which is the highest form of love.
Hold up.
Right?
So
So
the
God
highest.
has treated you way better than you deserve. You deserve to go to hell. You're a
You
rotten
just
person.
do you realize you just said the highest form
God
of love
loves
is
you.
unaliving your child? How is
God
that the
loves you
only
despite.
in Christ?
Look, man. God loves you even though you're a bad, corrupt person. Isn't that amazing?
Where else in the world would you say the highest form of love is unaliving your child? That's pretty sickening. I
Oh,
mean,
really? You think
go in
so?
front of let's say we're a judge and jury. Say you're
Okay.
in front of a judge.
Okay.
Tell that to the judge. What
Okay.
would the judge
You
do to
think
you?
so?
Wait,
You think so?
what? Wait, you
Honestly,
said
what would
tell
the
it to
judge
the
do to you?
judge, but we're the judge. Wait, who's the judge?
Well,
So
just
let
say
me. Oh, what? Man, this
we
isn't.
in
No.
we in court right now. You're in front of the judge, and you tell the judge that. What is the judge going to say? He's going to send you right to prison. He's not going to
Well,
say
look
you're a
at.
loving person.
This is not showing. I have to fix this. I'm gonna have to do this later. But this you can't barely see him. But this is Kendrick Castillo. Remember his name. He's a hero. You know what he did? There was this satanic God hater who said he hates Christians because Christians hate GAYS, right? And he thought it'd be a good idea to get pew pews and go to his school and unalive children, right? Because he's a satanic psycho. And guess what this Christian did? Kendrick Castillo, who was a Christian, charged the gunman and lost his life, but he saved all of his friends. That is love, my friend. That's God right there. You gonna deny that?
Man, I think you're afraid of hell, man. That's because
Is
is anybody
Kendrick Castillo a hero?
if anybody else did what your God did, you would say he's an evil person. You're afraid of hell, so you're trying to color up underneath him and say, "Oh, please be nice to me." That's the only reason why you're like that.
Did Kendrick Castillo, the Christian, demonstrate the love of God by sacrificing his life for his friends against the satanic psycho?
Man, Christianity is satanic. You ask me, you're unalive.
Barry, is Kendrick Castillo, the Christian who sacrificed his life to save his friends, is he a hero to you? You know the Holy Spirit helped him, gave him the strength to save everyone that day? Does that mean anything to you?
What happened to your God? How come he didn't do anything?
Okay, what you're he can't even admit this kid's a hero. Pathetic. Oh, hey, here's an advertisement, by the way. In case of, January 17, is it? D-Day. Welching.
So I just have a few like baseline questions. I haven't been listening for too long, but I just have a couple like baseline questions for you.
Sure.
So do you take the entirety of the Bible at face value? Like, do you believe it literally, or do you think that it is a collection of fables that are meant to teach like moral lessons?
Well, there's, literal and figurative parts of the Bible, right? So what I would do is use Bible scholars. So we have hermeneutics, which is a science of interpretation. So we can objectively interpret the Bible through knowledge.
Sorry, real quick. Let me scroll down here.
I'm not like an expert in this stuff. I'm not a Bible scholar. I just prove the Bible's true.
Okay. So what other evidence do you have that the Bible is true other than the Bible itself? Like, in your opinion?
The transcendental argument for God would prove the Bible's true.
Okay. Could you iterate that for me in your own words? Like,
it argues like the Bible is a model of reality. Like the claims of the Bible constitute a model of reality, which uniquely can account for the intelligibility of human experience. And to deny that would be like to deny reality or something. It's as necessary. The claims of the Bible are as necessary to understand experience as oxygen and water are necessary to like live.
Okay. So over the 2,000 years that the Bible was written by 40 different authors, do you think that 40 people over 2,000 years could coherently tell the same story?
Well, from the Christian perspective, they're inspired by the Holy Spirit, so it'd be like the Word of God. So I think it only makes sense.
So if somebody was speaking through you and you were recording it, like if someone was talking in front of you.
God uses humans like avatars to speak for him. Isn't that amazing? Isn't our God amazing?
It could be. It could be. It certainly could be.
Maybe. Kind of ain't bad.
Also, all 66 books aren't like telling the same stories, right? So
there's a consistent like theme and message though throughout Revelation. Revelation's consistent, although like Ecclesiastes might contradict Proverbs because they're just it has to do with subject matter rather than like.
Oh yeah, I just mean like it wouldn't be because of the nature of the Bible having all these different components and parts. It would make sense to come from different books. Not just the way he asked it made it seem like can you trust that because there's X amount of authors? I'm like, well, I mean, it's kind of necessary.
Right.
So how would either of you feel about the statement that instead of science is impossible without God, that God is impossible without science?
I would feel that God would not be ultimate. That would be like some heresy.
Okay.
And also
So,
it would be illogical.
do you want to explain the illogical part of it?
Like why would God need science? Science is like a puny human attempt to understand the natural world. What would that have to like? Why would God need that?
Well, to use, I don't remember which live I'd used this analogy in, but to use an analogy, if we are a painting and God is our artist, who birthed the artist? I believe that was you.
Who created God?
Yeah.
God was uncreated. He's eternal, self-contained, non-derivative, independent, non-evolving, secures all epistemologies, ontologies, makes argumentation possible, science possible, logic possible. He has a deity. No one created God. He's eternal. We consider him uncreated and necessary, part of existence.
It seems very paradoxical.
Oh my God. Okay.
So if you have nothing, but you have something, do you not have something? Like if there is nothing, but there is God not something? And like, the statement just seems paradoxical.
Bye-bye. I mean, what do you do with this? Like, I don't even know what to say to that. Like, honestly, like, he's gibbering. It's like baby talk or something. Like, goo goo gag 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 gee. It literally is like baby talk. Like, what was he saying? My God. Guests stacking the W's. Yep, the guests always win. That's right. I've never won an argument.
Imagine listening to that and thinking W.
Sick burn. We'll clip that for YouTube. Welcome only.
Hello.
What you got?
Not much, but does God know everything?
Oh my God, yes.
So he knew the fall of man was going to occur before it occurred?
Yep.
And he let that happen anyway?
Because he had a plan for redemption. He also knew that.
What's the plan for redemption?
To let bad things happen so you learn not to love the world and you turn to love God. He maximally gets the maximum amount of souls to freely choose him and be in paradise.
But he knows everything, so he knows that a lot of people are going to hell.
Yep.
But he's all loving.
Yep.
Doesn't sound like it to me, bro.
Okay, I'll grant you that it seems odd from a human perspective that an all-loving God would allow us to be eternally consciously tormented.
He made it.
I'll grant you that. That seems
it's kind of like me setting up a computer sim and configured it in such a way that half the people will be in paradise and half the people won't. But I want everyone to think of me as all loving, regardless.
But if he doesn't like punish people, then he wouldn't really be just, right? And
do you think there's anything on earth that is just punishment for eternal hellfire?
Do you want Ted Bundy? Do you think Ted Bundy should go to
I
hell?
don't know. I don't think he should be punished for eternity.
No?
No, that's awful.
What about Schmittler?
I mean, is Schmittler in heaven right now or hell?
I'm saying, like, don't you want Schmittler to go to hell?
But I mean, if he redeemed him, if he called out to God in his final moments and said, "Forgive me," is he in heaven?
Atheists aren't even sure if Schmittler is in heaven or hell.
Do you notice how he's dodging the question? You know, you're prepared.
No, I'm not dodging the question. I'm just asking you: is Hitler in heaven or is Hitler in hell?
Do you want Schmittler to go to hell or not?
No.
No.
No. There's no punishment. There's no act on earth. There's no act on earth that is justified in an eternity of punishment. No act.
Okay. Well, I don't know, man. It seems like you know everything. So
I mean, if you think that anything that could be possibly happen on earth is justified in an eternal punishment, that's an evil beyond Hitler.
I don't understand like how I would be in a position to judge what God does.
No, but you're worshiping a guy who does do that.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, in your system, people can live like like Schmittler never really was punished in this lifetime. So I guess he just gets off scot-free of his crimes.
Okay.
No justice for all those people.
And did God flood the earth?
In my system, all those people that Schmittler harmed will receive justice.
But God's killed more people than Schmittler.
Okay.
He flooded the earth, dude. He killed innocent children.
God doesn't prevent bad things from happening. They complain. God prevents bad things from happening via the flood, and they complain on how he does it. So God can't win, right? God anything God does, so you should be thanking God for creating this environment for you to complain, because you people love to cry, bitch, and moan about God. Like, this is your paradise.
You can't,
Welcome, Jeff.
defend it. You can't defend it. Can't come up with an answer. Hello.
What? Hello.
Yeah, I just want to know how long it's going to take you guys to kick me out of here.
Okay. Shoot, you want me to time it? Or?
Well, I just wonder what I can do to get booted, because I'm going to dunk on you guys pretty quick.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, just wondering what's going to take to get dunked, to get booted.
We'll start a timer. Okay, I'm starting my timer now.
Well, I'm just asking you a question. Do you have the answer?
Should I wait? I mean, I can't. It's hard to know,
Well,
but
just-
like,
It seems
I
like
try
when
to be
people start
patient.
dunking on you, you kick them.
You think that's what's happening?
Yeah, that is what's happening.
Okay. Well,
so what are we trying to argue belief in a God for? Which God are we talking
Okay, I'm
about?
starting the timer. So which God? The Christian God. It says 2. Christianity is objectively proven. Can you read that?
Okay, now I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Christianity. Okay, so the other gods aren't real?
Correct.
Really? So how did you get born into the right religion then? You're just lucky?
Oh my God.
I was born again, sir.
You were born again. So if you
Yeah.
were in India, what would you have done?
I'd probably scam phone calls or something.
Uh-huh. So that's what your answer is, huh? And you call yourself a Christian. It is a big joke to them, I know.
Like, kill me. That was racist? Oh, come on.
So why don't you answer the question?
Everyone, you
Answer the
like those
question,
scam
moron.
calls? Come on, no one likes that shit. Screw
Answer
those
the
people.
question.
Okay, what's the question? Relax, man.
Do I need to dumb down these questions for you because you're not smart enough? What do do I need to dumb it down for you?
They're defending scam calls. Oh my gosh.
Not
You're
defending anything. I
scammers.
asked you a simple question.
How do you
and you don't seem to have the answer for
The
it.
question was, what would he do if he was born in India? Why don't you just get to the point, Jeff?
Yeah, and I said
Because
I'd
you
scam
guys
call.
seem to think that Christianity is the only religion out there. That's
I
the
know it's not the
one.
only religion. It's the only true religion. There's a bunch of false gods.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's funny how you could disprove all of those other gods the same way you could disprove your God. Believe me, I was born Catholic, Christian, raised that way,
Well-
and then read the Bible, and that's all it took.
Oh, that's badass, dude. So, did the Bible reveal atheism to you?
No, it just revealed that there's no
No.
proof in your God.
Oh, what about the transcendental proof?
What's that?
Well,
Explain that.
The transcendental proof is going to say that like God's going to be necessary to like, I don't know, do science or something, right?
That's your explanation. Kind of like, well, hey, like science can't. Are you serious? Why don't you tell it to me like an adult, not a 10th grader?
Well, I'm saying like we live in a world where science is possible. So what else
Science
would
is
have to be
provable.
true?
Actually, science is disprovable. That's what science is.
We can do. So we live in a world where we can do science.
Yes.
So then I just asked the question like, what else would have to be true for that to be true? And it's just there's going to be a relationship between being able to do science and God revealing Himself.
So you fill in that gap with God.
It's not a gap.
There is
It's
a gap.
it's a no. It's not a gap. It's a necessity. It's a
Who created
necessary.
God then?
It's a necessary relationship or entailment or something.
Well, who created God then?
God.
Oh, Jeff.
Oh, God created God? But I mean, I thought there has to be a creator for everything.
I
For
didn't say that.
contingent things, Jeff.
For what?
I never said there has to be a creator for everything. I never made that argument.
Yeah, but you're connecting science with God.
Uh-huh. Because science needs there to be
Because science,
order.
therefore God.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
To do it, Jeff, to do a scientific experiment, you need to have like repeatable results. That entails like a consistency in the world. And so you'd have to identify and defend why there's consistency in the world on a godless model of reality. How could you possibly do that, Jeff?
You know what the chances of the earth being created and people living on it and life?
They're prevaricating.
Tell us, Jeff.
It's exactly
Jeff,
one to
can we
one.
do science in random world where everything's random? Can you do science in that world?
Where is that random world? Explain to me where
That's
that
the
is.
godless model of reality.
No, there's just you can't prove there's a God.
What in the
Can't
godless
prove.
model of
I know
reality
you guys want us to disprove your
Well,
God. but
I'm
that's not how it
desperately
works.
trying to prove the God to you, Jeff.
You can't prove.
Because you're
what is
being,
it?
but only because you're being stubborn and irrational. If you would just reason with me, we could easily prove it.
Okay, go for it.
Yes, the world where everything is random, we can't do science. God endows the world with order, making science possible.
How do you know that's not the Indie God or Muhammad or all of the other gods that are? There's hundreds of gods out there. How do you know it's not one of those?
Because the property set revealed by Jesus Christ.
What property set? Explain that to me. What does that mean?
Like God is, like He's the ground of being. He's
So is their God.
Idiot.
I don't think so.
Well, how do you know that? You can't even prove your own God. How are you going to disprove another God when they claim they have the same claims as you?
No, they don't have the same claims. All religions don't say the same things. You
They all
big
say
lip
there's a
baby.
higher being.
No, that part isn't even true. You don't know what you're talking about.
In Hinduism, they say that everything is Brahman, so like God is everything, and that how would you have morality in a system where God is everything? So that system.
I don't believe in God, and I have morality. You don't need a God for morality.
So what's your objective standard for morality?
I don't want to do something to somebody else that I don't want them to do to me.
So
that's what you want.
Are you arguing that opinions are true or like fantasy? Are you arguing your fantasy or are you arguing reality?
What do you? Obviously, reality.
Okay, what in reality would tell us like why we ought not harm people or something?
I don't know, but why do Christians seem to be the ones?
I
who
can
lead
tell
the
you what
charge
that
on-
is. I can
on
tell you it's
hurting
God.
people?
I can tell you it's God. That's
why
why.
are Christians the ones that are mostly hurting people? Like who's
Christians are
raping
hurting
these
people?
little boys
What?
in the churches? Who is that?
Oh, are you talking about like we're hurting people with our hospitals and like
Who's-
malpractice?
Who's the ones hurting the little boys in the churches in God's house? Who's that?
Is that what this is
Is that
about?
the atheists that are doing that?
It took you about 7 minutes, and you started talking about P3DO stuff.
I'm just asking a question.
Jeff,
Are those the atheists that are
Jeff,
doing that?
Jeff, like you're ignoring what I'm presenting to you. You're prevaricating, and now you're doing emotional
I
blackmail.
don't know what that word means.
You're evading my questions, and you're resorting to emotional blackmail.
How is that emotional blackmail? It's a simple
You're appealing
question.
to children being hurt. That's the most emotional blackmail thing a person can do.
That's your God that's doing this. He's allowing it in his own house.
What if
atheism is true, then little children evolved to get cancer, and then when they die, then they don't go to heaven, they just go to nothing. So nothing matters. For the little children to die in atheism, it doesn't matter. There's no meaning to life. Little children have no meaning under atheism. Isn't that terrible, Jeff? Think of the children.
I can do the same shit.
Think of the children, Jeff.
You can answer the question or no.
In atheism, when a child dies with cancer, they go to oblivion. There's no heaven for the child. Will you please think of the children?
Why do you hate children, Jeff?
Why do you hate children? Do you hate, does their laughter make you mad when you hear a child laugh, Jeff?
My mother is sitting here. She's a Christian, and you guys make her blush. You're so terrible.
Okay.
Like, I'm not even kidding. You're
Jeff's mom, you
terrible.
did a terrible job
You
raising
guys
this
are just
guy.
terrible people. You give Christians a bad name.
Jeff, where did your mom go wrong, do you think, in your childhood? Like, so why you're an atheist now?
I don't know. Why? Why don't you tell me, doctor?
I don't know. Did you have a
So
good
where's
father
your proof
figure in
of
your
God?
You have a good relationship with your
is
father?
Your proof that one priests are raping the little boys or the
Whoa,
or cancer?
whoa,
Is that what you-
TikTok language.
Whoa. Okay, so you want to know how long he would last, and I timed it. So you lasted 9 minutes before you said little boys are getting raped, but you used the word we can't use. So you lasted 9 minutes, Jeff. Pretty good. That's longer than-
Why do these people think you're like a therapist stand-in? Why don't they just go get therapy?
I mean, I think join half of these streams and like people want to give people therapy. Everyone on TikTok wants to give each other therapy. So I think he's probably just thinking this is like one of those streams. Don't you notice that a lot? Like a lot of these streams are just therapy sessions.
I've been to Elisa's lives. There's a lot of crying and trauma and
Tell me your feelings. Yeah, trauma is bad. Let's talk about it. Let's see. I just got women get priority. Oh, she didn't. I think Cassie might have accidentally requested. I give women priority because women are the superior. They're the fairer sex. Am I gonna get banned for saying that? Is that? Welcome, Army. What would you like to say? Oh, no worries.
My name's Jeff.
What is there?
Dude, have you ever seen 21 Jump Street?
Oh, I've not seen that. No, I can't say.
Oh, man, yeah, you didn't get it. It was a little joke from 21 Jump Street where the dude's name was Jeff, so he would pronounce it like, my name's Jeff, every time somebody asked him a question. So listening to that dude talk was just hilarious. But yeah, man, when I came in earlier, I don't know if you or Darth had requested, so I was just coming in to say what's up.
Oh, right on, man. Yeah. What's up, man? Yeah, I appreciate it. Army Father, I got a video on my channel of him educating us about the Amalekites, how they if God hadn't ordered the war against the Amalekites, they had planned to come back and wipe out the Jewish people. So
yeah, in the Book of Esther. But yeah, man, I'm just listening. These
Right,
dudes, they get up here and they're completely irrational. So
yeah, I appreciate you you reminding me that they're unique in the chat. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, they're very, very unique guests,
Very
man.
unique guests. Yeah. I
Every
already got a
time they
warning
come up.
today and yesterday for harassing and bullying. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was getting a little personal with Jeff there. He
Yeah,
sounds
that
like
might
he
have,
has some
like,
childhood
been
trauma there. So
He was
I'm
the one
sorry
bringing all
happened
that
to you,
stuff
Jeff,
up,
man.
though.
I hope you get healing.
Yeah. I wasn't trying to get all personal, but he seemed to. But anyways, yeah, all right. Thanks.
I'm sitting right next to my mom.
She's blushing at the things you're saying.
Like, why are you doing this with next to your mom? What the? What do you like? Go hang out with your mom, I guess.
Look, Mom, I'm gonna show these Christians what's up. Watch me school these Christians.
I'm nothing like Dad.
I hate my father. It's like with Adam Sandler when Big Daddy, when that kid was like, "Look, I could tell that dude right there hates his dad." It's like, "Hey, fuck off." It's like, I do hate my father.
I think it is a lot of daddy issues, honestly. I do. But all right, man. Thanks for coming up.
All right, man.
Okay, we got Destina. I think we're getting close to like why I've been streaming going for a while now. Oh, Bart. Oh, God.
Hello again.
Welcome, Destina. What would you like to say?
Oof, gosh, where do I even start? There's somebody in your comments who is convinced that telling me that somebody called Jesus existed in Israel a few thousand years ago is definitive proof of God. No, it's not. That's just telling people that someone called Jesus existed. Congratulations.
Yeah, most historians will accept that Jesus was a person, but
It probably was. That doesn't prove that there's a God. That just proves that someone in history was called Jesus who happened to live in Israel.
they only reject like the biblical miracle claims because like they have a presupposition that nothing is supernatural, and they bought into like scientism, you know. So without that if people didn't have the presupposition that there were no like miracles or supernatural things, then the academic people would have no issue with the Bible. Like it's stood up to thousands of years of scrutiny. So
thousands of years of scrutiny. Okay, so a lot of things can be passed down for long periods of time. So I'm not convinced that he touched a blind man and gave him vision. I'm not convinced that he was able to make a person who was crippled from the legs down able to walk again. I'm not convinced that he could walk on water, just as much as I'm not convinced that he could turn that water into blood. I'm not convinced that he could turn...
Oh, shit, this is the racist lady in chat.
No, I'm not. Like, you're the one that said if I was Indian, I'd probably be a scam caller. That's racist, actually.
And then you said... You said that all Indians are scam callers, and that's not what he said.
No, I didn't. Jeff said, right, if you actually listen to what I'm saying...
I don't like to listen to racists.
He was conveniently born in a country that worships Christianity. So what would he say if the circumstance was that he was born in India? The host then replied saying, I would probably be a scam caller. That is a racist assumption.
That's a funny joke.
Not a funny joke. It's a racist assumption.
If he thought everyone,
Is India have a problem with scam calls? Does India have a problem? That's an actual fact in the world.
Yes, of course they do.
That's not. How is that racist to point out an actual thing that exists? So, is the truth racist? Are you saying? Wait, Destiny.
The immediate assumption is if that person is Indian, then they're going to be a scam caller.
Is the truth racist? Destiny, is the truth racist? Is saying things that are true, is that racist?
You get scam callers everywhere, but you don't immediately
Destiny. If he said what you said he's saying, then he would have said, I would absolutely. He said, I would probably. That's the difference there.
Yeah, that's racist. Because most people in India aren't scam callers. There are over 1 billion.
Okay, well, you're a bigot. You refuse to listen to reason, so thanks for coming.
Whoa.
You're a bigot. Destina, you're a bigot. I just don't want to deal with your bigotry right now.
You have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
You're an intolerant person. Destina, you're very intolerant.
About
okay,
racism?
thanks. Yeah. Bye-bye. What do you want, Kami?
Wow. That's messed up.
What do you think? Do you want to say something, Whit?
No, are you gonna kick me?
You want to hang out? You want
Yeah.
to be?
Oh God, I didn't realize it was her.
What do they call the people? The people who like sit on the panel and they have no use. We had a word for that. I was
Women?
No, I'm a feminist. Welcome, Battle Ghost. Why did you get banned yesterday or blocked?
So I'm still waiting for you to answer my question. Though you've not yet once proved or convinced me why I should turn to God. And if anything, your whole panel's convinced me that God shouldn't be praised.
Well, that's because Slurms is a heathen. But so, do you accept transcendental proof or not?
Transcendental proof.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. So do you like disagree with that?
No, I came up here. When are you going to convince me to turn to God? Because all you cucks have taught me is you're worthless, you're childish, and you're punks. But
Yeah,
hey.
convince him, Precept.
Well, if I was going to convince you, what do you want me to do? Like threaten you or something?
Oh, no, I mean, your actions are pretty convincing of why nobody should turn to God.
Okay.
I mean, if this is how Christians act, that's pretty pathetic.
All right, but like, what would be your objective standard to say my actions are wrong?
Bullying, constantly harassing people, acting like you're superior. These ring any bells, or you
That's
just
a
keep acting
dodge.
stupid?
That's a dodge.
Slurms, was I talking to you? I don't think I was.
Whoa.
You can sit down now.
Why is it
I mean,
wrong
he
to
just came
bully?
up here to
Slurms, was I
virtue
talking to
signal
you?
and
No, I'm
finger
sorry.
wag.
Aren't you bullying God?
Oh no, am I bullying your make-believe sky daddy? Oh no, what maybe shall I do?
Yeah, you are bullying
Maybe I'll
God.
just
Is
cry
this the
about
kind
it,
of
or
people
maybe
you get in here, like Reddit atheists?
Go back to Reddit, you
Is there any other
psycho.
kind?
Hey, Slurms, was I talking to you? No, nobody
Why is
cares
it okay
about
for
I was
you?
talking to you, dummy.
Slurms, I wasn't talking to you. I'm sorry, but I can't hear you.
Oh,
What?
was I talking to you?
What? I'm sorry, I can't hear over the cock in your mouth, buddy.
Oh my God! Whoa! Whoa!
Mask off!
Whoa!
Mask off!
Whoa!
What did he
What a
say?
homophobe.
They're talking about roosters.
Oh no.
These people project so much. They're violent, they're racist, they're homophobic, they're
bigots. They're bigots. It's funny that
ableist.
they preach tolerance and they're like the most intolerant people. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, no, it's all your fault, Precept. You know, you're just not a true Christian. You should be
You're
converting
what's
people.
wrong with the world.
Yeah, you should be converting people, Precept.
I should me telling jokes, trying to make people laugh. What would Jesus think of that?
It's bullying and harassing of
I
you
know, like-
to let people come up on their own volition and have a conversation.
Yeah.
No, it's not just that. It's racist, Precept. You're being racist.
Welcome, Astral.
Hello.
Hello. What would you like to say?
No, you were saying hi, so I was just saying hi back.
You're stealing Slurms' catchphrase. Hello.
Hello?
Hello?
Okay, I get the point.
Okay. What would you like to say? Are you an adult, by the way?
Yes, I am 18.
Okay. What would you like to say?
Like, I was raised as a Christian, but due to traumas, like I don't really identify with like most of the Christian beliefs because of traumas related to the related to church. I've had traumas related to it, so like I have been leaning away from it, but I still do respect y'all.
Okay. So you just
Like-
want.
So it's
Alright.
like I just don't go to church. That's all.
What? So you just wanted to tell us that you have church trauma?
No, because I thought that because I've had some people argue with me over it in the past, so I didn't know if y'all were like that.
Well, I mean, here's my look. I understand there's a lot of church trauma. There's weird, like there's Eastern Orthodox, for example. But no,
I'm sorry.
no.
I'm sorry.
But no, for real though, there is like kooky Christian cults. So like, I don't know if you're a raised Jehovah's Witness or something. Like, I could understand where like
My mom was. I was raised. My mom. I was raised in a mix of Catholicism and Methodist.
Okay, well, I was raised Catholic. I don't know if I would say I have trauma from it, but it definitely like turned me off to Christianity. But I kind of realized that I had that was like a bias. That's a confirmation bias type thing. And when I examined my bias, I was like, maybe
Yeah,
I
I
should.
can feel that.
I was like, let's give Christianity a chance, another chance, look at it with new eyes. And instead of like judging Christianity by Christians, I judge Christianity by Jesus now. Like he's the standard. And I understand there's going to be a lot of crappy Christians.
That's
And
so
that's
profound.
unfortunate. Yeah, but any group has bad apples. So like no matter what you do in life, you're going to be associated with some bad things. So it's good.
There's
Yeah,
always
but
going to
I've
be a
been
whip.
but I still am working on that trauma. So I do get your point, but I am still working on that. But I appreciate the reassurance on how I will on how I can like separate the people from the religion.
Right. 'Cause I focus on like the religion's really about like spreading love, forgiveness, humility, service to others, charity, all these things, right? So that's what it's really about. So, but because of power, like power is the real problem the way I see it. Institutions of religion get power, power corrupts. Science gets power, power corrupts. Politics is about power. We all know how they lie all the time. So just that's the reality of we're in a fallen world, and unfortunately power leads to corruption. There's bad things in religion. That's undeniable. But I think Jesus is good. And so
Yeah, I live in a really conservative area, so it's like with me being autistic, it's also not helpful for my being autistic because I've had people saying, "Oh, you're autistic. Well, maybe God will cure you if we pray enough." I wanted to kick them out of the house right from there, but my parents are too nice of people to let me do that.
I would just say God accepts you, like he loves you. You just have to be who you are, right? Like you don't have to be anything different. There's nothing wrong with you.
Oh, thank you.
But all right, well, thanks for coming.
No problem. Thanks for letting me talk with y'all. Thank you.
You're welcome. I wish you well.
Bye.
Yeah, that's why it's so important for people to remember that we don't put our faith in Christians and Christianity.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
it's not like-
sympathetic. Yeah, I was the same way. I'm sympathetic to that view. So, anyway.
But I'm honestly not surprised that her trauma came from Catholicism. Honestly.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I don't want to say too much. I don't want to.
I just joke. Like, Darth is more against Catholicism than I am. I wouldn't say it's a cult, but I don't know. The Vatican is pretty rotten, I think.
I'm not a Roman Catholic. I have my issues with them, so.
Yeah, the Vatican, I think, was infiltrated by like some demon worshippers or something. But welcome, disciple.
Thank you, guys. Hopefully, I can hang out a little bit and be part of the debate.
Oh, well, we kind of got a lot of people. I kind of want to.
Okay, yeah, you can cancel me out if you don't want me to hang. That's fine. I'm okay. No big
In the future, like when there's less people, I try to
Another
keep it really smaller. Yeah. If there's less people, I'll let you come up here and hang out.
Okay, next time.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, like I shouldn't
really
even.
made the cut.
I shouldn't even let Wit up here. It's against my better judgment.
Why?
Good
morning, everyone.
I'm so nice. I don't even know what you're on about.
We just give you crap. It's just like I don't know. You're like
All right. I'm about to get female-minded. Don't worry
you're
about
like
it.
the inside joke. You're just one inside joke with.
Yeah, it's a joke, Wood. Stop being hysterical.
Welcome, Curtis. What would you like to say?
Oh, I just going through TikTok and I seen your debate live, so I thought I'd stop in and just see what you guys are, what's it's all about.
Oh, well, I do a transcendental argument for God. So I say like Christianity is objectively proven.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you ever? Are you are you a Christian or?
Yeah, I'm a Christian, but I also like look at the Bible a little different. Like I don't discredit evolution or science or anything, but You know, I'm not like a fundamentalist Christian. I'm more of a thinking, rational Christian. Yeah, definitely not like a fundamentalist. I'm more of a thinking, critical thinker. So I kind of see the
Understanding
atheist
of
arguments and stuff, and I see their point of view, and I see science point of view, and I do hold to evolution. I believe in the Big Bang, kind of like that's my point of view.
Okay. But it seems like you're trying to like, rather than just accept the Bible as the authority, you're trying to make the Bible like fit.
Well, I do believe in the Bible, but the Bible does have some errors in it, like how it was translated and stuff. So we do know like there are inconsistencies in the Bible. Like there's humans wrote it. There's, like we
like what?
obviously.
What inconsistencies?
Yeah, I'm not
Well,
really.
look at the book of the Genesis. There's two creation stories.
Oh,
Like
man.
they're both different, and they're both saying different things.
But that's intentional. That's not.
Yeah,
So I see like the book of Genesis more as like maybe there was or wasn't an ark. I don't think really that's the point. Like there may have not been a literal Adam and Eve type of thing. There may have been like the more symbolic
Jesus referred to them like they're literal.
Yeah, he referred to them, but I mean like it's kind of like these things were written thousands of years ago, and I kind of take the allegory more out of it than a literal point of view.
They always bring up Genesis because it's as far as they've gotten.
It's not as if like the scientific claims are the gospel truth. Like they could be wrong about evolution and the Big Bang. There's no guarantee.
Oh, they could be like really. There's so many other theories out there. Like this could all just be an illusion.
It's like you're trusting man over the word of God.
Well, not really
wait a
that.
minute.
It's science.
Do we affirm that Christ is God?
What's that?
Do you affirm that Christ is God?
Well, yeah, I believe he's God.
Oh, I don't know. What's thousands of years old with? I don't know.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I'm just kidding, Curtis.
What's that?
Don't accuse me of bullying.
Oh, I didn't quite hear you. I didn't heard you mumbling.
Slurms is a bully. Don't worry about it.
Not shot with.
Your bullies are unintelligible because of your godless worldview, so they're not effective.
No, I didn't really quite hear what he said. You heard him mumbling. I didn't really understand what he said.
Yeah, that's just what I sound like. Ignore me.
He's just drunk most of the time.
Oh,
I'm
that's
not.
good.
Don't spread lies.
Well, that's good.
No, I'm not drunk.
I'm not drunk.
Slurs Mackenzie, right?
Somebody wrote in the comments racist. What are they talking about?
She's projecting.
Because slurs is like every race, so whenever we talk about them, it's like racist as hell.
Yeah, well, I'm racially ambiguous. Nobody knows what I am.
I know.
So they just kind of they like roll a dice and see which slur to call me and hope that it sticks.
I made a joke earlier about like when how they say the pot calls the kettle black. Like, why is this pot calling the kettle black? It's like racist as fuck pot. Like, do better pot. You ever think about that, Slurms? I don't. Anyways, Curtis.
Wit doesn't own any black pots.
Only white pots. That's all I have.
She's got a real problem.
I got a real problem.
I'm not racist. My cat is black.
Mm-hmm.
No, the racist part is what you named it.
Guillermo?
That's just the Spanish word for black, Slurms.
Sorry.
Nothing wrong with that. Anyways, so I don't know. Did you just wanted to say that you believe in evolution and science and?
Well, I believe that they can coexist. Like,
well, yeah, but I think where they contradict, like if science says something that would contradict, so like I think evolution would contradict the story in Genesis because death and suffering would have entered the world.
if you took a literal point of view of Genesis, yeah, it would contradict it.
But like Jesus sacrificed because of Adam's sin. So if Genesis isn't literal, then what's the point of Jesus' sacrifice?
It's a theological story.
Well,
it's not meant to be scientific.
Yeah, well, the Bible is a book of faith and not really of science. So I read this book once by this one author, and it was written by a Christian, and he believed in evolution. This book was called "I Believe in Evolution, but I Love Jesus," and I thought it was so amazing because he kind of like, he brought his arguments out.
I don't know. I think that's like being a lukewarm Christian. Like you're serving two masters, where you have like the science master over God.
Well, God created science. He created all things, didn't he?
Yeah,
So
that's why if science contradicts God's word, we go with God's
I don't
word.
think that science can contradict it because, like,
Okay.
God created science. He created everything. And our understanding is, like, we're not to take everything literal in the Bible. Like, and
Okay,
that's...
but all right, but we have to use hermeneutics. We can't just like decide what we want to be true. It seems like you're just doing eisegesis here rather than exegesis. Like, do you have any Bible scholar to say that like Genesis is consistent? I mean, I suppose you will because William Lane Craig will agree with you. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we just disagree on that. So
Well, yeah, there's a lot of Christians who believe in evolution.
yeah. I just don't agree with that. So
Not me.
Are you with me, Whit, on this one?
I don't affirm like the narrative of evolution, no.
So do you take the Bible story to be what it says for the most part? I mean, obviously there's
So
some...
do you actually believe, like, the world is 6,000 years
So
old?
like Genesis, you take...
Yeah, I mean, God created the world. I take that as like a historical thing, but Genesis is allegorical, metaphorical, symbolical. Like, it's a theological story. It's not meant to be like a scientific book.
I know that, but you believe that like God created Adam and Eve, and then everything
Yeah.
there was no
Adam
death,
and Eve were real persons in our faith, yes.
then there was no death and suffering, and then Adam rebelled, and then death and suffering.
Right, before the fall, there was no death.
Okay. All right. Well, we're on the same page. I think that would contradict evolution.
The world, like, it was 6,000 years old?
I'm like kind of agnostic on young Earth at this point. I don't really care, old, young, whatever, who cares?
But yeah, I don't know. This isn't really like a science. I don't really like. I only talk about science to make fun of it. So.
Also, Curtis, God didn't make the sciences, right? So God creates the world. Man invents the sciences to understand the world. But I don't know what you mean by because science is in the God world, therefore it's all true because God didn't make. You don't
Shape
understand?
up, Wit? Who is that?
Bye-bye. Thanks for coming, Wet. It's back to the Darth Dawkins show. Welcome, Darth.
Well, that's kind of mean.
Huh? Well, no, I told him when you come back.
Oh yeah, there are people who profess Christianity. They believe in evolution. Oh, well, I guess that settles the issue. Then it has merit, huh?
Curtis, Darth is talking to you.
Oh, you're an atheist, Darth?
No, I'm a Christian.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so evolution is utterly incompatible with what Jesus taught. So those Christians who are accepting evolution are opposing their own Lord.
I don't see, like, he never mentioned evolution. I don't know if he...
Jesus doesn't have to mention evolution per se. All he has to do is mention a proposition that is logically contradictory to evolution. So Jesus said that God made Adam and Eve in the beginning. Okay? So the beginning is referring to what the Old Testament says. So Jesus is referring to the first chapter of Genesis. Okay? Number two, what would it therefore mean if Adam and Eve were made in the beginning, if they were made in the tail end of eons of time? The beginning of what? Adam and Eve were made in the beginning. The beginning of what? Well, Jesus was clearly referring to the Genesis account.
He ran away.
Just like Moses did. So those Christians, those professing Christians who accept evolution, they're being inconsistent with Jesus' own words. Did he run away?
He ran away. Yeah, it's a type of cognitive dissonance. It's like a performative contradiction, sort of like.
I want you to do me a favor here. Please, hold on a second. Block Darth's office because he's deciding to. It's War Party. Yeah, block him from coming on your stream again. Okay.
All right.
All right. So he came up here super trolling. It would be one thing if. Did you block him?
Yep.
Okay, I'll mute him now. It would be one thing if he came up here respectfully disagreeing, but he's just a super troll.
Yeah, he was just saying a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, so we don't mind intelligent opposition, but we do reject people being trolls.
Well, I've been going like 4 hours now, and there's no one really requesting. So maybe call it, I guess. I don't know, if you want to talk to this guy, I guess do one more.
Mm-hmm. Welcome, CeeLo. Do you accept God as your creator?
He's not connecting. He might have. He probably disconnected, and then the other person is Destina, we talked to yesterday.
We're not doing that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not looking for a drama queen. And that can be taken in more than one way.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take a break. It's been like 4 hours, so...
Okay. All right. Well, if I do a stream, you're more than welcome to come on anytime.
Okay.
And on my stream, we can turn it into the P. Mars show. No, I'm serious. You're very gracious to me, so if you want to come on and you want to...
I just want to tell a joke every once in a while, really. That's I kind of like doing that. But...
Yeah, well, they're not going to get your sense of humor, so...
We got a reader. All right. Thanks, Darth.
Okay. Thanks for having me up again.
All right.